City. Let's see what we have, bro. Let's see what we have. Let's see the gameplay first. No max 2160. Thank you. 2160. Let's see what we
Damn hunters! I told you to stay away!
Oh, wait, hold up, sorry.
Damn hunters! I told you to stay.
That's new. What was that? He spins around. Oh, he spins around to shoot another web? Let's just watch it.
Damn hunters!
My man is zooming.
I told you to stay away!
I'm sure they probably tweaked that.
Getting real sick of this lizard hunt. I don't have time for this! Connors!
So, one thing's first things first. This reminds me of the Electro. Not the Electro, the Shocker chase. That's what this reminds me of. This also reminds me of the Rhino chase. To refresh your memory. Like I said, I don't have a problem with it because it was fun. Rhino chase Miles Morales. I don't have a problem with it because it was fun. Don't get me wrong. It reminds me of this one.
I'm a count us lucky.
If you all remember this. This was fun. This was very fun. But yeah, just like this is fun. This is gonna be fun.
Here it comes. You can't get through his skin.
You try to stab him with the end there?
Stuck. I'm not losing this antidote. Whoa.
Yeah, you can't lose it. Didn't he lose last one? That's what cost Mary, Aunt May her life. Lucas, thoughts on Spider-Man Unlimited TV? Of course, bro. What are we talking about? Thoughts on Spider-Man Unlimited TV? Fam, what are we... Hold on. Bro. What are you talking about? Thoughts on Spider-Man Unlimited? Spider-Man Unlimited is the fucking GOAT. Let's go.
What are you gonna do at the top? Fly away? Nowhere to go. Connors!
Great.
Such a beautiful creature. I got you.
Damn. Damn, they cut it right there? Sean Argus says, did you see the made the web swing better like the loop-to-loop? And you can do the hard turn Andrew Garfield did in Tatum 2? So I heard. So I've heard.
You're Kurt Connors, a brilliant scientist! You made some mistakes, but it doesn't have to end like this! Is this how you want your family to remember you? You can still be with them! Down, gotta make my move! Think of your wife!
Bro, this sped
Your
this up.
son! They need
5
you!
million. Eh. Hold on, let me double check this isn't on like 2 speed or something. How is this on regular speed, bro? This man just moving like a... God, dog, he's bouncing all over the place.
That didn't work. I have the antidote! Let me help you!
Damn.
Stop fighting me! Are you hearing this, Harry? How much longer?
I know.
Does Harry know that he's Spider-Man, bro?
I'm on the last 2 steps.
Warning. Building integrity unstable.
Bro, is Peter turning into Venom? Because that's very much a similar freaking spider to the one that's on Venom. Are they going to have Peter turn into Venom? Here's what I'm thinking. You want to know what I'm thinking? My guess is Craven turns into Venom. That's what I'm guessing. I'm thinking Craven turns into Venom, right? Because he's such at awe at this Venom creature that he defeats Spider-Man, and then he wants to become the ultimate predator himself through the Venom suit. You know, the Venom Carnage. Yeah, this is Rage Mode. This is Rage Mode. This is Rage Mode. So perhaps something happens, but I still don't get the end though. Perhaps that's who they're fighting. That's my guy.
Stable.
Because it just wouldn't make sense that you have Peter and Miles fighting, you know, Venom. It wouldn't make sense that he turns into Venom. Unless they're actually going to do like an alternate, a multiverse, where another Peter comes in to help with Miles defeat this universe's Peter. But I don't think they have the balls for that. That'd be too much.
Taking the shot! Is that all the hunters you have? Really?
Warning. Structural collapse imminent. Evacuate immediately.
Are you hearing this, Harry? How much longer?
I know. I'm on the last 2 steps.
Warning. Building integrity unstable.
Harry! This place is coming down! We need to leave!
No, hold! I'm so close!
Hey, I know that finisher. Man, my man is hauling ass. It sucks that none of the content creators could actually, you know, film anything.
Yo, Doug, that better be you.
Yeah, I don't care about the spider butt.
This is Brian Intihar, Senior Creative Director at Insomniac Games. Thank you for all of your amazing
Yeah, I've seen that.
new information system.
Alright. Let's see review. Anybody have any good reviews? This man is always happy, bro. I played Spider-Man 2 early. The completionist? Really? Bro. Let's see. Spider-Man played it early. Hollow. I haven't heard anything about the completionist. We played its PlayStation Access. Eurogamer. It looked like everybody got to play it, bro. Joe Raptor. Bro, god dang.
What's up, gamers?
Oh, they were funny. They were like, yeah, it's just more of the same. Jake Baldino. Jake.
Ash and myself are fresh from our very first hands-on with Marvel Spider-Man 2.
All right, let me get some drink. Let me get some drink, Brad. Let me get some drink. He's funny. I like him. We may have a long stream because I also want to do the research of sequels and see if I'm misjudging the sequel to Spider-Man 2 because I love Spider-Man. Because Batman, I don't really care about Batman. I just thought the combat was fucking amazing. So everything else I just glossed over because the combat was so much fun. Let's see.
It was good.
I can't believe we've actually played it.
Yeah, honestly, it was such a good day.
It was a very good day.
It was a very good
I mean, there was a big chunk of the game we got to play. If you've been following Marvel Spider-Man 2 and you saw what was showed at the most recent showcase, we got to play in and around that section of the game.
And slightly further as well.
And slightly further. We won't be spoiling any story stuff, but we're going to give you our fresh, excited impressions on the gameplay,
We'll watch Jake
on
Baldino too.
controlling Peter Parker with his new symbiote powers. The preview.
Yes.
I didn't because I was doing other things.
Yeah.
There's a really exciting event full of cool
Rob was
stuff.
just looking at things.
Also, you know, you had the station and I got to jump on a little bit later.
Yeah, I was the spider player.
So you're like, you know, you did the end bit, which
Yeah.
we will talk about. But first, the first thing I want to talk about is the Traversal, because I always forget just how amazing it feels. And I think in Marvel Spider-Man 2, it just feels even more amazing than it did before.
100%.
Like, it's just so cool
Yeah.
swinging around the city.
There's nothing that quite beats swinging on a web in like Marvel Spider-Man games and being able to just go back and do that again and it feel amazing. And you see these slight changes in the animation where you can see that Spider-Man have gotten a
Here's what I don't like. This is badass. I don't like that there's not new animations for his web swinging when he's in the symbiote suit. I just don't like that.
little bit more confident, a little bit more sure of themselves. Like playing as Miles Morales and seeing the way that
Especially
he
Miles, yeah.
handles a little bit differently as you're swinging and doing like your little flips and stuff. I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing.
It is smooth,
but they've
bro.
also added in the web wings as well now, so you can switch between swinging around
Smooth, bro.
and gliding around too, which
Like
are they are so fun to use.
Yeah.
Like they're another one of those things that feels super satisfying.
And it's just a little simple press of triangle, and immediately
Yeah.
the web wings come out. It's a real intuitive control system as
Yeah.
well. It's just like, you know, pitching up and down on the right stick, swinging around, the height you can get as well.
Yes.
If you deploy them right.
I want to be able to go through some buildings. using the web wings or something.
The apex of a big swing, just like, oh, and the speed. As I was swinging around with Miles, I swung through some trees, swinging low down through the park, swung up through the canopy, and like a bunch of leaves just like poofed out.
Yeah, so Frederick says, best Spider-Man suits of all time, in your opinion, Lucas, from all lore Spider-Man? Well, the Raimi suit, first off. Then the classic symbiote suit. And then I would say, are we going with Alex Ross, or are we going with the comics, or just games-wise? Because Alex Ross is pretty dope.
It was just so satisfying, and the city just looks
Do I have
ridiculous.
$20.99?
Yeah, being able to fly over the shorter areas is really satisfying, and they've got rings that you can fly through,
really
which
like
are like
Sensational
wind
Spider-Man.
tunnels that take you even
that
further and
comic
faster.
comic
So
book
again,
series
with the
was
chaining,
amazing.
with the swinging, and again at the end of the game where you've kind of mastered all of these moves and you know just when to let go or catch on or deploy your wings, and then combining them with those as well. Oh my god, I'm literally just so excited to be like 30 hours in and just going around New York. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I liked the air graphics.
Yeah.
Which sounds
That's a new one for you.
I know, it sounds stupid, but there's like a real sort of hazy thickness to the air quality in between the buildings. And in one section, it was like the sun was setting.
Yeah.
And you get that amazing thing where all the
This
buildings,
just seems
the
like a
reflections
giant
off the buildings
playground,
just
bro.
look incredible. And you're like high up between the buildings and you can see the street below you. And there's just something about the quality of the air. It's really hard to articulate.
No,
I was
it's
just
like city air, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels so alive. And I was just mesmerized by it. That's probably another reason why I didn't finish the preview, because I spent way too long just like, just swinging around, looking at all this stuff. Another thing I noticed, and I love how much attention they pay to these little details. I was swinging around as Miles. He was talking to Genki, I think, on his little device. And I was swinging under a bridge, and all of a sudden Miles's voice sort of like went all echoey.
Yeah.
And I just love that. Like, it's
Oh,
such
wait,
an
echoey, swinging
amazing
under a
little
bridge. That's dope.
immersive detail to add in. I've got to do this thing
That's
over here,
amazing
but
sound
quickly
design.
I'll just save the day over there,
Yeah.
and then I'm off again. Great. It's so exciting.
Yeah, I think they kind of dig into that with the quick switch between Miles Morales and Peter Parker as well, because you can just go into a menu, press a button, and then you fly across New York and like go into another Spider-Man basically. And they're always doing something funny is what I like.
Yeah.
Like they're always like, you get a little insight into what it's like being a Spider-Man off duty. Because I went to Pete and he had like a little spider bot like crawling all over him because he was playing with it. Went over to Miles and he was just like crawling around on a building. One of them was doing sit-ups like on the side but like horizontally off a building and stuff. So it's
Show-offs.
yeah,
Hey.
there's just so much joy to it though. They didn't need to do that. They could just literally like you could just
Yeah, I
open your
know,
eyes in
it's
another
6-month-old.
Spider-Man, but that they've added
Dead
all these
build.
little moments that kind of solidify their characters.
I just
even
wonder what
more.
that means, though,
It's really
right?
really
Like,
sweet.
what did they improve in
and such
that
a
6 months?
cornerstone of Marvel Spider-Man as well, like that
Did they
these
improve the
characters are the
animations?
center of
Is
it.
It's
Is it more
so
of the lighting?
just
Like, what did they
charmingly
improve?
written as well.
Yeah.
Like, again, I'd sort of like forgotten just how funny the first game was.
Yeah.
The section of the game we were like, Peter's got his symbiote suit on. So I'm like expecting, he's going to be angry, angsty Peter. There's a little bit of that, but he's still Peter Parker.
Yeah.
He's still like the wisecracking Peter Parker you know and love. And like one of Kraven the Hunter's big henchmen in like a bear
I hate this
suit.
bro.
Oh,
was
yeah.
like with his big axe. And Peter's like, before we begin, and it's just like goes all quiet. I'm fresh out of honey.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he just, it's great. He had to be there, but
It
it
is
really
good.
just
It's
made
a
me
good
laugh a lot.
moment.
Right before quite a
Yeah.
intense mini boss battle.
I was literally just saying to Dan before we started this that my favourite line from the whole thing is angsty Peter, but when he goes, how about I smash your face? And it's just the way it's delivered is so good, and I can't replicate it. You'll see it and you'll experience it, and it'll
Yeah.
bring you joy. But it's so good.
We
Bro,
shouldn't try
what's
and
going
do
on with the
Yeah.
spider sense?
our Peter Parker impressions. But it is very good. Anyway, this leads on to what we should talk about next. The next big thing, the combat, which I think anyone who's played the first Marvel Spider-Man game and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales will immediately feel at home with the combat. And there's lots of additional stuff to enjoy.
Yeah, parries is the main
Parries
one.
is the big thing.
That I love. Because before he'd do this giant boom. Now it's just like bam. I do hate that he's not shooting webs from his freaking the back of his hand. I do hate that he's still doing it like this. I hate that. I hate the suit.
I was bad at
Hopefully, when it comes to PC, we'll get the modders.
We had Brian Intar, the creative director, before we played the game, was explaining the parry system to us. It's like, if you see an enemy attacking with this yellow ring around them, don't dodge that attack.
Yeah.
And then it turns red.
Yeah.
And I think when it turns red, that's the moment where you have to hit L1 to perform the parry. And I should have listened to Brian. Because in the heat of battle, I was like, oh my god, dodge. The dodge didn't work, and the big attack came down, and I got hit hard.
Yeah.
But there's, we fought a bunch of Craven the Hunter's goons, and a lot of them,
We'll see what
they're
that
not to
means.
be
It's
trifled
involved.
with.
We'll see.
No, they're
You've
quite
gotta-
tough.
You've got to be on your toes. I mean, like, it's never been... the first game was never like, okay, I can just button mash my way through this. You've got to really be... You've got to know what move you're using. You've got to know what enemy you're
course, we will
fighting
be playing
and
this on the
what moves to
hardest
deploy
difficulty.
against those enemies to have the best chance of beating them. And it felt a lot like that. It felt like, okay, but when you do nail it and you, like, absolutely work your way through a group of henchmen, like sliding under, the slidey under the legs move is still in, which I love. Like, so the punch, slide underneath them, punch them into the air, swinging around. Oh, it's so satisfying.
Damn, how much more do you have?
L1 or R1 to do different things. So R1 is all of your gadgets. We were using the web grabber, which pulls everyone in and kind of knocks them
You still
out,
not
and
like
also
the
another
symbiote
one
suit
which
display in
spins
Spider-Man
loads of
2?
webs out. The
No,
gadgets
I
are
hate
great
it.
as ever. And then the other side is
It just seems
basically the
disjointed.
new abilities. So
Yeah.
the symbiote powers for Peter Parker, which are so good. Like, it's literally...
incredibly satisfying. to
It's
use.
just tentacle attack. It's tendril moments, baby. So, like, you can, like, pick up about 4 enemies, throw them in the air, and slap them on the ground.
Yeah, I already know that.
Suits, but you can also spend your points and coins and all sorts of bits to unlock suit variants within that as well now.
Right.
So you can dress up Miles Morales in like pink and black instead of his like classic red and black, or use like different colors on all of them, and it's so good. Like, the customization that was in Marvel Spider-Man has been just again dialed up to 11, where you can play around with so many different things and have your hero look exactly how you want them to, with loads of references to other media as well.
I like those sort of like breaking up the pacing, adding a little bit of gameplay variety.
All right, that's a bit long.
Craven, we have the spider.
Craven's gonna have fun with you.
What is that?
With Marvel's Spider-Man 2
Is that an EMP? Like, what does it do?
launching in just a few weeks, we were lucky enough to be some of the first people in the world to get to play the game at a special event in London. We got to go hands-on with both Spider-Man,
I
Peter
said, yeah, I
Parker
hate-
and
I
his
hate the
newfound
symbiote suit
symbiotic powers,
hate it.
and Miles Morales,
I
who
hate
is still
everything about the
fairly
symbiote
new
suit.
to his
It's
tenure
horrible.
as Spider-Man, and still
the
finding
ugliest
his
symbiote
feet,
suit I've seen.
but with explosive bioelectric venom powers of his own too. We
His
webbed
own
our way
too.
through new areas of NYC, paid a visit to the home of Kurt Connors, tried out some of the mini challenges dotted around New York, tried our hand at some stealth sections, and went up against not only the forces of Craven the Hunter, but the fearsome lizard himself. After playing,
Bro,
Morales was completed. But obviously, given the teaser at the end of the first game, the team already had a good idea of the direction they wanted to go in. However, working on the story proper really only began
looks
once
like
Spider-Man Miles
latex
Morales
rubber.
was done. And obviously, after the success of their first 2 outings, there's a different kind of pressure on the team this
That's what it
time
reminds me of,
around.
latex
With the
rubber,
first game and Miles Morales, Insomniac felt the need to prove itself, prove its respect for the comic book source material, and prove that its version of the characters we all know and love were worthy of inclusion in Marvel's pantheon of Spider-Man. But surely, with 2, they could relax a bit? It felt good for a minute, Paquette told us. But
Okay.
then we were like, we have to tell a really good Venom story, because
Yes,
there
you
has
do.
been a lot of them. So we were
That
like,
is
how do we
correct.
tell one of the best Venom stories ever? Obviously, I don't want to pump myself up by saying that we did, but that was the goal. We want to take what's great about the symbiote. What does it bring to the story? To any Venom story, really? And how do we make it affect the characters that we started with? Where are they on their journeys of life? What happens dramatically to all of those relationships when the catalyst of the symbiote comes in? Adding the symbiote to Peter's repertoire obviously changes up your powers, more on that very soon, but it also changes the story too. So, in a development sense, which decision comes first? The powers you want the player to have, or the story that you want to tell? Paquette told us, what comes first is the player experience. What do we want the player to feel? What kind of goal?
Black and Angel says, don't like how Kraven overpowered symbiote Spider-Man. Also, same web strike animation with the symbiote. Bruh, make symbiote Spider-Man walk different. I agree. Don't get me. I agree. I want a very clear distinction between the animations of Spider-Man and the symbiote. It just seems that they didn't do that. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
What do we want these characters to go through? And so we kind of approach it in that sense, and we're like, wouldn't it be cool if you played this moment? What would it take to build that moment? Well, okay, let's talk. Do we have the budget? Do we have the people to do it? That's the hard part of making games. But in that first idea phase, it's pretty fun. There's a great sense of balance in this game between familiar elements from the original game and Miles Morales, and new iterations that keep the excitement and the satisfaction of those elements intact, while iterating on them to add fresh new experiences too. Zipping through the city feels just as fantastically freeing as it first treetops of Central Park, or to propel yourself headlong up a building or down toward
I played 3 hours of Marvel Spider-Man 2 thanks to Sony for inviting me to the cool hands-on event in London, and my god, Insomniac really stepped up their game with a ton of cinematic Uncharted-like moments where I was on the edge of my seat. Don't worry, I won't spoil too much of the main story, this is all very early and I love discovering some things for the first time as well. So the demo started a couple of hours into the game where Peter had to fight off Kraven's hunters and already had his symbiote suit and new powers. I could use the familiar symbiote punch to smash enemies against objects, symbiote strike, where Peter turns into a spiked symbiote ball and launches himself at a target, and symbiote yank, or as I would like to call it, symbiote yeet, where symbiote tentacles grab and slam enemies into the ground.
So in my playthrough, I'm not going to use any what do you call it? What are they called? Gadgets. I'm not going to use any gadgets.
Blast was a new ability where a ton of tentacles jumped out of Peter for crowd control. Speaking of enemies, we got new robo-dogs that have an attack that could cancel your ability, so it's smart to take them out first, which was a cool twist. And there should, by the way, be more abilities in the final game next to an ultimate that I could already try, called Symbiote Surge. With this, Peter powers himself up so you can very quickly do takedowns on enemies for a certain duration. You can activate this by filling up the search meter, which you find in the top right corner of the screen, similar to what was introduced in Miles Morales. But the sad part is that this symbiote ultimate is instead of the really cool suit powers that we saw in the first game, like the guitar power from the Spider-Punk outfit and the holo decoy from the Scarlet Spider suit. Those made the suits way more unique, and it's a bummer that these suit powers will not be in Spider-Man 2. The Iron Spider legs from the Iron Spider suit are integrated in some available skills though, so we can luckily use those again in cool new ways. I was, by the way, able to interview core tech director Mike Fitzgerald, and he confirmed that we can use the symbiote powers while wearing every suit in the game. So you don't have to switch to the symbiote suit all the time, you do see the suit a lot in main story cutscenes still. And there were some really cool suits available during the demo, including one most of you will recognize, but more on the suits later in the video. After some main story missions and fighting sequences with Peter, I got switched over to Miles Morales and could do some side activities in the open world. The familiar reported crimes are back, like fighting enemies in an alleyway to chasing a car. There are also photo ops again, where you have to take pictures of specific landmarks in an area. But we've also got the base activities, this time filled with hunters to defeat, and there was also a similar activity called Hunter Blinds, where I had to beat hunters on a rooftop and eventually unlocked another location that would lead me to another hunter hideout. Not sure what the purpose of this is yet, but it was fun to do. Another new activity that I liked a lot and that I could try out with Miles were these drone chases, where while using the web wings, I had to pursue a bird drone and stay in its slipstream to gather data. I have to admit, I still had to find my way around while using these new wings, but when I got the hang of it, it was really enjoyable. And don't worry, a ton of these activities like the hunter bases and photo ops can be completed with both Spider-Man. But there are also character exclusive side missions, like one for Miles called Culture Museum, where I had to help turn on a security system again after criminals sabotaged it to steal instruments. I infiltrated the museum as a spider bot and had to distract criminals by shooting webs at objects like this toilet, for example. So yes, these missions are back. Cool though is that the game notified me that completing all of these results in getting a new suit, so I'm definitely going to try to finish them all. Next to these, there are of course also collectibles to hunt, no backpacks this time, but spider bots with various designs. They are scattered all around New York City and you will receive tech parts for them as well to upgrade your gadgets, so a rewarding grind if you're up for it. I saw some really cool designs already, like an Into the Spider-Verse one, but also Spider Armor MK3. I'm up for the Easter egg hunt for sure, and you can also collect these with both Spider-Man. And maybe you already noticed that after collecting this spider bot, a progress bar appeared on screen, which is also linked to fast travel. We'll go over that, the suits, and more. Of course, if you liked the video so far, then leaving a like would be awesome, and subscribe as we are just getting started with the Spider-Man 2 content. So yes, fast traveling has been completely changed in the sequel, where previously you could unlock points on the map like the science labs for Peter and the subway stations for Miles. These are not needed anymore. You instead have to unlock the ability to fast travel by completing enough activities per district as tracked by this progress bar. Once you reach the fast travel icon that you see in the middle of the bar, you can drop anywhere you want inside of that district. So spawn there in the blink of an eye. But yes, that does mean that the cool fast travel cutscenes we had before in the subway are no longer in the game. No, instead, we will find these little vignettes when switching between characters. During main missions, the game will decide when you play Miles or Peter, but in the open world, you can switch freely between them using the friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man app. And then when you switch to Peter, for example, you will see him hanging from a building, and Miles had these unique intros as well. And according to Mike, there are a lot of variations, so it will be fun to see them all. But yeah, it's up to you who you want to play most of the open world content with, and while Peter's symbiote powers are of course really cool, we shouldn't underestimate Miles either. He has newly evolved venom powers like Chain Lightning, where he pushes enemies into each other to cause a chain reaction, and Thunderburst, where Miles jumps into the air and launches himself onto enemies, electrocuting them. But also returning ones from his previous game like Venom Smash and Venom Jump are available to use and upgrade in his skill tree. Miles also has an ultimate power just like Peter. We unfortunately don't have footage of this, but it reminded me of the ending of Miles Morales, where he built up a ton of venom power and eventually released it. In the demo, we could use this to damage all the enemies around us, which was really cool. Next to the active abilities, both Spider-Man are able to use the same gadgets in combat, which are slotted in the right corner of the screen. You of course got your web shooters, but I also got to try...
Interesting. If you look closely at the Spider-Bot explosion, it looks like the glitching from intro to Spider-Verse. You think we'll get hints at a Spider-Verse?
Out two new ones. The web grabber that lets you pull multiple enemies together, really great for a little bit of crowd control, and the upshot. We unfortunately don't have footage of this, but it sends multiple enemies in the air, also making them vulnerable to air combos, or you can yank them down, so great in combination with the symbiote yank. As I already mentioned, you can upgrade these gadgets.
And given that they have Venom, they're gonna have to follow up with Carnage. And we still have Green Goblin. So I think there's a lot more story to tell for Spider-Man before we get into, you know, the multiverse.
Tokens again, which you can gather by doing activities in the open world, and they all have a max of 5 upgrade levels. There were also 2 other gadget slots that were still a mystery. I asked Mike, but unfortunately he couldn't say anything about them, so I assume we will figure that out while playing the full game. There are also newly updated skill trees, one for Miles and one for Peter, but also one with upgrades for both Spider-Man. And there is really a ton to choose from. I made a quick drawing to give you an idea, so there's a tree to upgrade.
Nice work. This is great journalism. Venom Jump, Venom Punch, Venom Double Jump, I think that is. Venom Jump Nearby, Venom Smash Ball, Biosphere, Venom Cloud. What is Venom Cloud? Thunder, Chain Lightning.
upgrade your symbiote and evolved venom powers, but also the new parry feature, which we'll cover in a bit, and new ways to traverse, like the slingshot ability where you can launch yourself into the air to get a speed boost while activating the web wings. You're also able to use super slingshots, which are placed all around the open world to launch yourself even further. And every suit I have seen so far has unique web wings, by the way, which is really cool. Brian Intihar noted that there are over 65 suits to collect and 200 ways to customize them. That's right, you can now unlock 3 color variants for most of the suits you find in the game by finding the right tokens to craft them. I had access to 5 for each character, including one from the Digital Deluxe Edition, the apocalyptic suit for Peter.
Yeah, don't care about that.
And here you see my favorite for Peter, the Secret Wars Civil War suit, also known as Spider Falcon from the Secret Wars comics. I absolutely love this one, especially the design of the web wings to match his Falcon persona. Other suits we could choose from were of course the starting outfits, the
Yo, if they do Spider-Man 2099, the web wings.
Advanced 2.0 for Peter and the upgraded suit for Miles. Miles also got the Miles Morales 2099 suit and the Boricua suit, which is a reference to Miles' Hispanic heritage. I couldn't find any reference of that suit online, so this must be an original one made by
Do you think it would be a little bit redundant for them to do Carnage? No,
Insomniac, but correct me if I'm
Carnage
wrong.
and Venom
And
are
for
two
Peter,
completely
next to the
different
symbiote
characters.
suit, there was...
Well, actually, it depends on how they tell, what they tell. It depends on who Venom is, bro. Because they're very much focus on telling an Insomniac version of Spider-Man. So it depends on how, you know, where the story goes. Where they
one other outfit that was available to play, the webbed black suit, inspired by the one from...
No, they didn't. That's cold-blooded, bro. Insomniac's cold-blooded, bro. You tell me the Raimi suit was available for them to play? That's cold-blooded, bro.
Other outfit that was available to play, the webbed black suit.
Oh, they cold, bro. They cold with it. But at least they have it in the game. At least they have it in the game. They already knew, bro. They already knew hell was gonna come. Do you think they'll do a symbiote invasion in New York like Web of Shadows? No. I hopefully they don't do anything like Web of Shadows or Spider-Man 3. This is something I want them to go very far out, bro.
Inspired by the one from the Spider-Man 3 movie. That's right, totally.
That's right, the Raimi. That is correct, baby.
Fitting the Venom and symbiote vibes. And of course we can expect even more comic and movie inspired suits, fingers crossed for Indian Spider-Man, and there will be new suits made by Insomniac as well. The demo concluded with an epic boss fight against Dr. Connors, aka Lizard, and it really put my combat skills to the test. Mini and big bosses now have extended health bars, and big bosses also have multiple faces and a variety of tricks to keep you on your toes. During the sequence I also had to use the new parry feature a lot. Sometimes during combat, you will encounter enemies that use heavy attacks on you, which you are not able to dodge. You have to parry these in order to stagger them and counterattack. This was something I really needed to get used to. I even forgot the ability existed sometimes, but after a while it felt really cool to press R1 at the right time when the circle is red and perform a counter. Although Lizard's fight also introduced the crush attacks that you recognize by the blue circle. You cannot parry or block these, so dodging is the only possible option. It was challenging, but after paying attention to...
So we got blue, we got red, and then we got yellow.
his moveset, I eventually figured out how to beat him. And trust me when I say this was a very cool sequence, and I can't wait for you all to try it out yourself. Overall, the demo felt very ambitious with lots of new things to do, the increased map size, which is 2 times as large as the original, the more challenging combat, it's all very promising. And what I saw of the main story was also very intriguing. It was great to see these characters again, and they looked stunning in the new cutscenes that
Do you think we'll have 3 discs? Absolutely not, bro.
easily hit emotional notes.
Absolutely
I
not.
have to say though that the 3 hours could
discs,
get
come
a
on
little
now.
overwhelming. Brian did warn us about this because there was a lot of
What
stuff
could get overwhelming?
could cutscenes that could easily hit emotional notes. I have to say though that the 3 hours could get a little overwhelming. Brian did
3 hours got overwhelming for you? Lord in heaven. Lord in heaven, bro.
warn us about this because there was a lot of stuff being thrown at you all at once, but maybe if you really start the game from the beginning, this will be less of an issue. Either way, I'm very excited about the game with fidelity and performance mode available at launch in some...
Alright, next. This is GameSpot. GameSpot was hilarious. Their review was amazing. Spider-Man 2. IGN. I think I saw this.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2 takes everything Insomniac learned from its previous 2 Spider-Man games and finds new ways to raise the bar of superhero game design. No frame is left untouched. No character model is left with subpar lighting. Simply put,
I've seen this one. What I haven't seen is Jake Baldino's. Baldino? Let's see. I played Spider-Man.
So I got to play Spider-Man 2 early, and I got to see a bunch of stuff from new swinging mechanics to the entire map. I got to check out some story stuff, and I have a lot to talk about. Pardon the backdrop here. I am traveling. I've been on the road checking out some other games and doing things behind the scenes. And one of the things was Sony and Insomniac held a Spider-Man 2 press media event where we could check out the game early. I wasn't paid by like Sony or Insomniac to like fly out and see it. I came of my own accord so I could say whatever I want about this game. But I guess lucky for them, I'm an easy mark for Spider-Man. I really like Spider-Man. Check out my video about the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies or Spider-Man PS4, of course. I've talked about so many times. It's like one of my favorite games ever. I got to play a lot of Spider-Man 2. Over 2 hours, I think. I really took the time to squeeze every single minute I could out of this thing. I stayed to the very end of the event just to get as much as I could in. And I got some cool things to share. And just so you know, no spoilers. Everything I'm talking about is pretty early in the game. It's not the beginning of the game, but it's kind of the setup. And it's going to be revealed in trailers and stuff. So there's that. But the biggest takeaway right off the bat for me, the thing I was hoping for the most, was that it continues what Spider-Man PS4 and Miles Morales really figured out. How to tell a really good Spider-Man story. I think Insomniac really freaking gets it. And it seems like they're still doing that. And that's good. So this is like 9 months after the events of the Miles Morales game. And it has the characters in interesting places. From where I got to see it, I didn't get to see the beginning of the game, but I got to see a point where Peter Parker has the symbiote, but also Harry Osborn is back in the picture after a long absence. So I got to see a lot of Peter and his friend Harry being friends again, kind of rekindling that, but also doing like science stuff. And it's like Peter and his rich kid friend. The dynamic seems interesting. I'm still not sure about this Harry, so to speak, but it seems like there's something there. And also Norman is still in the picture, and it was good to see him show up for a bit. He looks a little bit different. I don't know what the deal is with that. If it's like the same thing as Peter Parker's face, I don't know what's happening there.
Bro, they changed his face.
Peter and Harry are working on a little science mystery thing.
You think they'll introduce anti-venom? That would be interesting, because the person who would become anti-venom, I could definitely see is Harry. I could definitely see Harry becoming anti-venom. I could definitely see that.
Tracking things down, and it's funny, like right away in the demo, I immediately got hit with a science puzzle on a computer screen, sequencing DNA. Like, it's just like the previous games where like it'll throw you into these weird puzzles. Their puzzles are different. I will give them that. They are unique. I just hope they aren't as repetitious as last time. It was really funny to immediately jump into the game, and that was one of the first things I was doing. I also got to see, and like you're probably gonna see some of this stuff in like the PlayStation Direct video and stuff and the trailers. Like I got to see Kraven and Peter Parker showdown stuff, and it's Kraven in the bell tower with symbiote Peter, and the imagery was incredible there. Kraven is giving a hell of a performance. There were a couple of moments where he gets right in Peter's face, and he's like, "You are a man, but you are a beast." I was losing my mind. Perfect. But then on the flip side, jump to Miles Morales, who at this point, after the events of his game, is kind of like figured out his Spider-Man thing. He knows what he's doing. He is peak Miles Morales Spidey, absolutely. But he's going through like what do I do, like my college essay. Like he's got regular kid problems, and that's nice to see. That's part of Spider-Man. But he's still going through the events of the previous games, and I got to see an extended scene with him and his mom, and about Herman Lee still being out there, and like what Miles wants. He can't let it go, and he's got this kind of angst about everything. It just showed me that like the game is still doubling down on like emotional, human, good scenes, interesting shit. And one interesting thing, Miles is rocking Royals. I mean, not technically Jordan 1 Royals, like they don't have the Nike swoosh, but like it's the colorway. Like it was clear. I was like, oh, that's my favorite sneaker. Very cool. So the shoe game representation is still there. Also, Robbie Robertson shows up. Very cool. He chimes in with Miles at certain points. That was like, I saw Robbie pop up and I was like, yeah. But playing the game, so I got to play. Apparently, there are going to be 2 modes. There's going to be a performance mode and a fidelity mode. The build I got to play, which was technically an older build, you know, with some bugs and stuff that still need to be worked out. Normal stuff at this state. I got to play in fidelity mode. And the game did look really damn good. The most interesting thing for me, it wasn't really the visuals, because at this point, like, if you played Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales on PS5, like, the cities are denser, there's more detail, so, like, it has a lot of that going, but the thing I noticed the most is really the color palette. It's a different time of year, and you're seeing the city in different colors and different...
God, I wish they could have done a freaking day and night cycle. Did they say we have different symbiote suits? I don't recall them saying we have different symbiote suits. I know we have different suits. I don't know if we have different symbiote suits, but I would assume so, right? They showed us freaking, you know, the Raimi suit, the black suit. So I would assume we have different symbiote suits, right?
Different times of
I
day.
don't see why not.
And that makes a hell of a difference. Where those games were big, cinematic, dramatically lit, and the skyboxes and everything. This is very much more the bright, colorful one, and not in a cartoony way, but it's just like bright sunlight, seemingly like summer or spring or something like that. And it just meant that, like,
he's not flying, he's falling with style. There's a difference. It's called gliding.
The color, the lights, everything really popped. Like, it's not something...
Flying is when you stay at a certain altitude. Falling or gliding is when you slowly or gradually descend.
Something I would normally bring up, but like the fact that it was noticeable, I'm going to. But the combat is like so crazy now. This is where the game is a sequel, and by that I mean there's just more stuff because it's a sequel. It's bigger, badder, and this is the one thing where I don't know. So combat now feels almost a little bit too insane, too crazy. There's so much more to manage. You have all your web blaster powers by holding the trigger and pressing a button, one of the face buttons. Then you have holding the other trigger and pressing a face button to do these big special attacks. So with Miles, of course, it tends to be like an expansion of his unique abilities. And on the Peter side, it is either the tentacles that come out of his advanced suit, or it is tendril symbiote stuff. Those attacks are really incredible. Like, it'll be like an AoE thing where you grab a bunch of people with tendrils and slam them.
I suggest watching Ev Flarka's video. He goes over the 2 biggest issues with the game, in my opinion. We need that dual swinging.
Down, you can single out one and hit them with a big, like, black venom goo blast. There's a big ground smash. There's a lot. And there's also just, like, a lot of shit. There's more enemy types, more things to worry about. There's now some attacks that you just can't, like, you have to deal with in certain ways more so. There's also now a parry. Like, you can press L1 right before a special type of attack to literally king and parry somebody. So it's that. It's not really like Arkham, like he's not grabbing someone's fist and snapping their arm around. It's more just like that. You know, very technical terms to describe the games here. But so there's that, and then there's certain attacks that you cannot parry. So it was, and everything is like a different color. So there was a lot to process at once. And I guess on a good side is that, like, I did get my ass beat, kind of. Like, there was a boss battle with the lizard, and it's like the lizard on like crack, like he's way more amped up.
How the suit doesn't have all the lines you were talking about when he goes to rage? Oh, I do see that. Yeah. Yeah, I do see that. Good. Fucking good. Yeah. I wonder if the rage is going to consume him. He just goes full venom. Or once the rage fully consumes him, right, we get the suit that we know.
But like, I went to every single end of the map where I could, just to really see things. So like, yes, the city is more detailed in certain...
We'll be making a good, bad, ugly video on this? I think so. I think so. So I don't think we have any ugly. Actually, we do have ugly. The ugly is going to be that there's no freaking white on the top of his fist. He doesn't shoot it through his fist. That he still goes thwip like that. Maybe when he fully transforms or whatnot, that's when he actually does it through his fist. Maybe.
Boss, but then of course there is a little bit of Brooklyn and Queens to the right, over the river, which is
also the ugly is that they waited till the fucking last second to start marketing.
Very cool. You get to see like
15th.
Williamsburg, kind of Long Island City, Astoria, and I was excited to see that. So I jumped over there immediately just to see what was going on as a person who lives in the greater New York area. And the feel is, you know, it's like a sterile feel for those areas, but that's kind of how Spider-Man PS4's New York was. Like, it is a great representation. Like, you can kind of get the landmarks, a sense of the place. But like, then there's other aspects where like the train I take to commute into the city, like I was able to see where that line comes in and roughly identify the same buildings in Queens. That I like to see that. Those bridges are long and you can manually swing across them, and I chose to do that a lot. But there's also the whole wingsuit thing now, and the wingsuit thing is about pressing triangle to activate, you know, your little web wings to glide on the air, and then you can pick up wind tunnels through the city to zip around the city much faster. You can duck out of these wind tunnels at any time and go up and do a backflip and then flip into webbing. But the wind tunnel thing seems to be the main mode of getting around now quickly because the city is really big. But I almost don't like being tempted with that type of thing because that's easy mode. I've talked about this so many times. I'm sorry if like I'm a broken record, but like I play these games for the web swinging, for the Spider-Man fantasy. I've talked so many times about how I just keep the swing experiences for that. But I found myself resorting to the wind tunnel sometimes naturally because it was easier to get places and it made me swing a little less, and that bummed me out. So once I was conscious of that, I tried to avoid it sometimes. Like, it's good to take a wind tunnel like across the river to get to the other boroughs, but I liked swinging under the bridges, and I was trying to like swing around and like over the bridges and stuff.
Takeaways, the fast travel stuff is pretty wild to see in real life. Essentially switching from one character to the other or doing a fast travel type thing basically results in a quick zoom through the city and then suddenly you're there. It's pretty nuts. The tech is really, really cool to see in action. They showed it off in the trailer, but I got to confirm seeing that in real time too.
Another nitpick is the UI stuff. So, you know, they have their own AR systems, the Spidey lenses. So, you know, you click the right stick and you'll see a lot of stuff. But now it's just so much more on screen. There's always blinking things and crazy shit popping up in the city, where in the previous game, it was a little bit more like you were swinging and there was the city in front of you and it was the magic and the beauty of it all. But now it's a sequel, so there's more stuff. So you're going to be seeing that stuff in your face quite a bit.
Also, when you're out in the world doing open world stuff, I wish I spent more time with side quests. I couldn't cover as much of those as I wanted because I was doing dumb stuff like trying to mess with the swing. But sometimes when you're out there and you're responding to the random crimes, you'll actually, if you're playing as Peter, you'll come across Miles mid-crime fight and you could jump in and complete it and do little combo moves together and shit. That's really cool.
But there are a lot more types of activities to...
That's pretty cool, where you swing and you see Miles fighting and you just go down and help him out. That's pretty nice.
The devs walked us through a couple of them. I'm not sure how compelling they're going to be, how repetitive they're going to be compared to the previous games. That was like obviously one of the bigger complaints of it. I didn't get to experiment too much with the side quest stuff because I was just like trying to swing to the tallest end of Queens I could. But doing all that stuff means it helps with your upgrades and the progression and stuff because Peter has his own upgrade track, Miles has his own upgrade track, and then there's like a shared one between you where you like it's kind of like the main abilities that they would both have. And that stuff seems pretty good to work through. I got to experiment and dig into quite a bit of it. Then there's like still the gadget upgrades and the power upgrades and all that stuff, like expand your abilities. But I'm happy to say I was able to get a little wild with the web swinging. That's what I was trying to do. So new moves. Yes. Well, first of all, the animations. Do you remember going from Spider-Man PS4 and then playing Miles Morales and Miles just having
night and day,
so much more like fluidity and fun to and lightness to his animations, and it just felt like a big leap. Like you were like, whoa! It kind of is that again, which is great. Peter, especially now, has so.
I'm gonna call Cap. I'm gonna call Cap. I'm gonna call Cap, Jake. I'm gonna call Cap, Jake. That leap from Spider-Man 1 to Miles Morales was huge when it came to web tricks and stuff. He's telling me that there's another big leap like that in this game? Come on, bro. If it is, then they are really hiding it very well. If it is, that they are hiding the footage very well. Because they only allowed them, there's like B-roll that they allowed them to show.
Well, it kind of is that again, which is great. Peter, especially now, has so much more expressiveness to his swinging, and it's really, really cool to see. Aerial tricks are still in, they're super smooth, they definitely look even more seamless this time around, but it was the other moves and stuff that I unlocked. The two biggest ones I wanted to highlight was one where you can dive straight down, and while you're diving straight down, you hold the right trigger, and if you can attach to a proper point, you can web swing. So watch my hand. You can web swing, right? And web swing, but instead of letting go, you can hold on and swing completely around and go woof again. I don't have a good way of explaining that, but you can whoa like that. Again, these are my technical terms. So that allows for you to clear a lot more distance, gain a lot more momentum than I expected to have in this game. Then there's also kind of like you know when you're right trigger running, wall running on a building, and if you hold circle, he'll do that little web thwip, and hard right, turn that corner and keep wall running if you hold it. There's now a web swinging equivalent to that. So while you're web swinging, if you hold L1 and circle and like the direction of where you're going, Spider-Man will essentially do like a hard horizontal web thwip turn. So essentially you can hard right down streets, which is very cool, but you can also hold that button down and swing for a longer time around. What you can also do though, because I experimented, I went up to the top of the Empire State Building, as one does, and I did that move. I attached to the spire of the Empire State Building with that hard right, and I was able to swing this way around the Empire State Building and then let go and clear a good portion of the city. The momentum that I gained from that was pretty cool. Maybe a little too much, maybe I broke it a little bit, but I was able to do that and then dive down and chain to one of those big loop-de-loop let-goes, and I was flying. I didn't need no wingsuit. I was happy. So to be able to experiment and mess around with more web swinging stuff made me happy. The story sequences, the stuff I got to see, definitely still have, like, I'm an easy mark for this game. Obviously, I'm going to play it. I like what they do with these. But yeah, it definitely feels like a bigger, crazier sequel. Again, they're tackling a lot of villains. I have a lot of theories, especially in terms of like what we've seen already and what they're hiding from us, but I'm going to keep that to myself. That's all speculation. But I still, like many of you, have more questions. Like, I didn't have everything answered. It wasn't totally clear to see like how the story stuff with the symbiote suit would work and like switching back and forth. There are suits, there are new costumes and stuff, and you can like unlock them, and then you unlock a suite of different flavors of them. And then of course I did get to see like some of those suits have their own exclusive kind of little details or little animation things. Like one Spider-Man suit has kind of like robotic wings that pop out when you web glide. So there's a lot there, but I'm just curious to see where this thing goes, how big this game could possibly be. The map is really big. I'm curious to see how much time they're going to let us spend in Brooklyn and Queens. You know, like I'm hoping that there are moments like how in Miles we got to spend a lot more time in Harlem, and they were able to kind of break out that area a little bit. When you do go to Harlem now in this one, you do see the kind of the aftermath of the events of Miles Morales, which is cool. But yeah, I'm curious to see how much time we'll spend in those boroughs, how significant they are. And I have so many questions, clearly, still. But those are just some impressions from playing an early version of the game. Again, it's not definitive. I'm not saying like it's going to be the best game ever. I still have questions. It does feel very
hit the like button.
sequel-y.
Why haven't
but
you guys hit the like
I want to
button?
know what you guys think. If you've been watching preview content,
You don't hit the
other
like
people,
button,
if you,
you
watch
don't like
the new
Spider-Man.
trailer
What's wrong
reveals
with
and
y'all?
stuff.
All right, hit the fucking like button. What's wrong with y'all, man? What's? Let's see what Evan says. All right, let's see the
my personal biggest takeaways when playing Marvel Spider-Man 2, I do want to begin with highlighting some of the biggest cons that I actually experienced with my time playing the game. Where, for starters, when specifically playing as Miles Morales in Marvel Spider-Man 2, I did notice that every single one of his manually controllable air tricks, which can be done by pressing and holding the square button and moving the left analog stick in any direction you choose, are literally one-to-one the exact same as to what we have already previously seen within Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Bruh, what's going on here? Who's lying? Who's lying, bro? What's going on here? Did Jake Baldino watch? Did Jake Baldino play Miles Morales? Well, obviously he did, because he said it was a giant leap from Spider-Man 1, which is true. So, what's happening? Who's telling the truth? Because the footage I've seen, it sounds like Evan's correct. But Baldino's like, yo, it's the same leap from 1 to 2 that it was from 1 to Miles Morales. Bruh, who the hell's lying?
Where even though I can't show you Miles' air tricks within this B-roll footage, I'm not kidding when I say that all of Miles' controllable air tricks are the exact same as to what we previously saw in his own standalone game. Where, if I am being honest, that is easily the biggest disappointment that I experienced when playing the game. And alongside of that, another big feature that I know a lot of people were wondering if it was going to be included within Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is the addition of more physics-based web-swinging techniques like
It's not gonna happen. You're not gonna have
like that of loop-de-loops and also running on the ground while holding onto a web line. And unfortunately, neither of those features are incorporated into Marvel's Spider-Man 2.
Now the loop-de-loops are there. Apparently the loop-de-loops are there. Just not how they've been in previous games.
So if you are familiar with the web-swinging system in Insomniac's
I saw Hollow's footage. I saw
previous Spider-Man games, you already know what you can generally expect when it comes to Marvel's Spider-Man 2. But despite seeing reused air trick animations and knowing that the traversal system is essentially an enhancement of what we've already seen done previously, my general impression after playing Marvel's Spider-Man game, experiencing the story is only one piece of the pie. Which now brings me to Marvel Spider-Man 2's completely updated and upgraded traversal system. And to put all of my thoughts into one sentence alone, is that I for the life of me can't even imagine going back to playing Spider-Man PS4 and Miles Morales after playing Marvel Spider-Man 2. The web swinging in and of itself has become so much faster. Approximately 1.5 to 2 times the speed in comparison to Insomniac's previous Spider-Man games. Where not only have Marvel Spider-Man 2's base web-swinging animations have become immensely more polished and refined, but Insomniac have without a doubt outdone themselves when it comes to Peter Parker's air trick system. Where if you thought that Miles' tricks were good, Peter's brand new tricks, which sadly aren't incorporated within this B-roll footage, are pretty much going to make your jaw drop to the floor and have your mind blown in utter amazement.
My mind blown in utter amazement. Huh?
Where, for instance, there's one air trick in particular that Peter does where he pulls out a Rubik's Cube and solves it while falling to the streets below.
That is wild. I'm not... Okay. That is pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie. That's on a whole nother level. Evan's video was debunked by the community manager, Agent of Doom. Debunked about what? That's pretty wild, bro. That's pretty wild. Community Agent of Doom. What did Agent of Doom say? That's pretty wild. Like you're solving a Rubik's Cube as you're falling from the sky. That's pretty insane. What did Agent of Doom say? I don't see the tweet. Where did Agent of Doom say? Drago? I don't see it. About the physics and the loop-de-loops. I know the loop-de-loops, but what about the physics? Where's Agent of Doom? I see Agent on Doom on Twitter, but it's like 8 followers. So what are you talking about? Physics. He debunked the loop-de-loop and all the other mechanics, and all the other new mechanics, because Evan basically said there was no new swinging mechanics. Okay. Who said that? Can you give me a Twitter handle, something? Can you give me a Twitter handle? Who said it then? Picking the best screenshot. Just pick random. Look at the Wonder Fizz in Spider-Man 2. So embarrassing. It's a trailer. We already know Loop de Loop is real. That's basically what Jake Baldino said. Yeah, who said it? Give me the handle so I can look it up. Why has anyone created a malware inspired Spider-Man 2 PS2 physics and controls? Let me see. The Agent of Doom. Got you. So Jason Espinoza. Got you. There we go. Let's see. Hey, I just saw a video of someone who got to play Spider-Man. Saying you can do loop-de-loops and whip around corners with your web. Can we get a confirmation? Because the way he described it is amazing. Indeed. You can loop-de-loop while diving and execute a swing, just don't let go. You can also do a corner tether to make immediate quick turns, so hard left or right. Bro, that's not the fucking link to what you were talking about. Nick, are you like retarded? What's wrong with you? This man talked about how he debunked Evan's video and then sends me a thing about loop-de-loops. We already know loop-de-loops is a thing. We just saw Jake Baldino's video. Yes, loop-de-loops are a thing. Apparently, but they're not in the sense that Evan was talking about. That's what you have to understand. Evan was talking about the loop-de-loops like from Web of Shadows, where it was naturally like if you hold on to the web, you can swing around based off the momentum. What Jake Baldino was saying is that you can do a loop-de-loop coming out of a dive. That's not the same thing. Now, where does he debunk as far as the physics that Evan was talking about? Do we have a link to that? Let's see his replies. We can't see his replies? Oh, so fucking stupid, bruh. We can't see his replies. Because Twitter is fucking stupid. That's why. Twitter's dumb. Oh, God, I fucking hate Elon Musk, bro. Can someone please buy Twitter back? I'm trying to look at it. Okay, I'm late to the embargo. Happy, mom stole something from me. The assignment. Be unlockable through Spider-Man 2. Physics issue was never debunked. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The only thing that seems to be quote-unquote debunked was the loop-de-loop. But it's not an actual physics loop-de-loop. It's more of an automated sequence. That's what I'm seeing. All right. Anyways, let's go back.
Which is only one small example of all the craziness that Peter is now able to pull off within this game. And of course, how could we forget the biggest game changer within this game's traversal system, with none other than the brand new web wings. Where after witnessing firsthand exactly what the web wings are capable of within Marvel's Spider-Man 2, I think it's safe for me to say that they're going to end up being a lot of people's most favorite part about this game's traversal system. Being able to swiftly and seamlessly glide throughout the city, as well as flying directly over the various islands' water banks, is easily going to give this game's traversal system a totally different vibe in comparison to Insomniac's previous game.
like surf on it. Yeah, that's what I heard. I forgot who said it. I think it was Hollow who said it. Hollow Man or whatever his name was said that you could do that.
Games, especially when compared to another iconic superhero game which features a gliding mechanic with that of the Batman Arkham franchise. The speed at which Marvel's Web Slinger is able to completely glide throughout the entirety of the city in Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is pretty much a total 180 when compared to Gotham's Cape Crusader. And being able to mix and match various traversal options like web swinging, web winging, web zipping, parkouring, and wall running all into one totally polished and seamless traversal system is nothing short of a dream come true for die-hard Spider-Man game enthusiasts, but at the same time is very welcoming for newcomers to try and understand the mechanics of the game while also having a rather high skill ceiling which takes time to fully master. But the biggest asset that Insomniac uses, which allows the player to fully appreciate all these brand new traversal mechanics, is the completely updated and expanded Marvel's New York map, which now features 2 new islands with Brooklyn and Queens, as well as various other locations like Coney Island, the Emily May Foundation, and more. Where even though you are able to fast travel to different parts of the map, it is undoubtedly way more fun to try and use all your brand new showcase demo and play through that entire sequence, but I also thoroughly engaged in a one-on-one boss battle and chase sequence between Black Suit Spider-Man and the Lizard. And when I straight up tell you that I had the biggest goddamn smile on my face when experiencing these moments, I am 110% not joking. As you can see from this B-roll footage is that all bosses will now come with a health bar, as well as having various layers attached to their health bars that you will have to whittle away at during these boss battles, which is once again another perfect example of seeing how much Insomniac listens to their fan base. You're really gonna have to start using a wide array of abilities and gadgets to try and take these bosses down, and in the case of the Lizard, being able to use the symbiote abilities as well as your webbing is really going to be critical to try and take him out as fast as possible. Not to mention that accurately dodging and parrying his attacks is going to be essential towards victory. And additionally, the previous Insomniac Spidey games are already chock full of incredible set pieces, but for the case of Marvel's Spider-Man 2, that has undoubtedly been amped up to the nth degree, and is without a doubt some of the most cinematically captivating moments that I have ever experienced in any form of Spidey media to date, which only gets me thinking exactly what Insomniac is going to pull off by the time we have to go head-to-head with Venom. And
okay, alright. These guys were funny. No disagreement day stream tonight? No, not yet. I haven't put out any videos to disagree with. That's I mean, what else is there? I mean, can't disagree if there's nothing, no videos. Who else got to play it, bro? Who else got to play it? Completionists. I think we saw the Completionists. Hollow. Check out Hollow real quick. So you saw Hollow. Played it. Is he any good? So I played Marvel Spider-Man 2. Is he gonna be honest? I'm just looking for an honest review, bro. We played Marvel Spider-Man 2. Oh, push square. That's all I'm looking at, bro. I'm just looking for an honest review. Kind of funny games. What is this? Bricks Edu? All these fucking names.
Welcome back, guys.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear this. What the fuck happened?
This little game, I don't know if you guys ever heard Insomniac games. So much since the other games. Not only is the boss battles more elaborate, but the boss battles are actually kind of tough. I found myself dying like 4 times against the Lizard. Maybe I'm a scrub. Maybe the Lizard's really strong. I'm gonna go with the strong one. And maybe just a little bit of me being a scrub. Even though the Lizard boss battle was tough, I found myself still having a blast. I also like that there's like a life bar now for the boss battle, so you can see how much life they have. all these little new things that they have added to make the experience that much better this time around. Speaking of new things, let's talk about this new parry mechanic. Now, in Spider-Man 2, there is a actual parry button where when your opponent tries to attack you and they glow red, you can press the left trigger button to then parry their attack.
There's
so
no
before, you usually just press circle and you roll and dodge out of the way. This time, there are more ways to not get hit by your opponent. You can still dodge with the circle, but you can also parry, which opens up the combo flow potential even more. They've added more layers to the combat, which is a nice breath of fresh air. Speaking of air, flying kind of makes sense, right? The new flying or gliding mechanic in Spider-Man 2. Now, I was a little skeptical about the web wings and flying. When I saw them first reveal, I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's sweet. But is it actually that good, or is it kind of gimmicky? I'm happy to report it is so much fun. It is so natural. The way that you swing into the glide and then go back to swinging, going back to gliding, it feels phenomenal. There was actually a cool thing where I was chasing the lizard in the water and I got really close to the water while I was gliding, and I thought, oh man, I'm gonna hit the water and it's gonna stop my momentum. No, Spider-Man then starts surfing on the water, which then I can jump into the swing, back into glide. Everything just feels so natural and everything just flows together. It's amazing. And don't even get me started when you're flying and then you go into those wind tunnels throughout the map, throughout the city. You pick up some speed. You go like Mach 5. It is such a fun experience. There was points of my play demo. I went to the tallest building in the city, jumped off and just glided. It was so much fun, man. I could see myself just gliding for hours. Let's talk about the symbiote. Nothing put a bigger smile on my face than jumping into a group of enemies and then just unleashing my symbiote powers on all of them. I felt like an absolute tank with these new symbiote abilities. It is so... I think that's the big thing about Marvel Spider-Man 2. Everything just feels fun. Now
all right. I've heard enough.
Into it with our thoughts on Spider-Man 2. Out of the question. This is a franchise that shifts hardware, and after a slightly lighter year on the content side for PlayStation Studios, this title is a beaming light at the end of the tunnel. A portion of sales is pretty much guaranteed based on the name alone, but the rest will flop when its quality is realised. Marvel Spider-Man 2 is a sequel that builds upon past entries in all the right ways. Safe but supremely solid in some, and excitingly daring in others. While just a taste was on display at a recent preview event, it exhibited why the joint adventure of Peter Parker and Miles Morales is yet another Game of the Year contender. We played just over 3 hours of the game, dabbling with its main story, open world and optional activities. The build, which was roughly 6 weeks old at the time of play, began a few hours into the narrative, with the two Spider-Men on completely different courses through life. Peter is handling a relationship with MJ and the return of his lifelong friend Harry Osborn, while Miles is trying to get through college. What brings them together is a new threat to New York: Kraven. With all the high production values you'd expect out of a Sony published experience, the series of missions we worked through were gripping, thoroughly enjoyable and entertaining even without the context of the game's opening. We found ourselves seamlessly slipping back into the world of Marvel Spider-Man, remembering the controls and basic abilities without the need for tutorials. It speaks to how the whole of Marvel Spider-Man 2 operates, the fond memories you have of the first two titles, but bigger, better, perfected. The open world is the best demonstration of that. The original map returns, but it's been upgraded with much more to see and do, along with 5 new districts that expand its size by roughly 50%. Web slinging through the streets and across its rooftops feels absolutely phenomenal, and new ways of getting about enhance that euphoria. At any moment you can ditch the swinging for Peter or Miles' new web wings, allowing you to glide about the city and catch huge airtime through slipstreams and open air vents. Time it right and you won't even lose any height. It's an exhilarating feeling, heightened by haptic feedback implementation. You can feel when Spider-Man reaches the apex of his swing when he's hurtling down to the ground. Combat has its own little rumbles and vibrations too, which, just like Traversal, borrows the base set of moves from the first game and
I had the opportunity to test the new Spider-Man game in a closed event to which the PlayStation Brazil team took.
Who the fuck is this guy? Is this like a Brazilian? There's no way he has 9.4. You're telling me he has 9.4 million subs and 451 comments? Suck my balls, bro. Suck my balls, bro. Get the fuck out of here. Suck my balls, bro.
From 2018, and also a direct sequel of Spider-Man Miles Morales from 2020, and it will be released on October. Both Spider-Man the Dragon, Ratchet and Clank. I had the opportunity to play the game for around 2 hours, and the Insomniac team mentioned that the portion that I played represents a slice of the beginning of the game. It takes place after a few hours of gameplay. As you will see throughout the video, on Spider-Man 2, we control two Spider-Men, both Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and they are very distinct both in terms of visuals as well as gameplay.
You're gonna regret ever coming here.
Peter Parker wears the symbiote suit, which has this amazing look that you can see, and that provides Peter with a lot of strength and a lot of combat brutality. Very violent. Traditional Spider-Man look, and in terms of gameplay, he focuses more on speed, agility, and he has access to bioelectric powers. He also has some stealth portions of gameplay.
Bro, what is this?
That's not it. Nope.
I don't want to dive deep into the story in order to preserve the experience of those who will play the game, but in regards to villains, we will see
Hey, Doc.
Lizard, Kraven, the Hunter, Venom, Mr. Negative. Apparently Harry Osborn is an ally, but I'm not so sure if he is indeed an ally.
I'll finish it and grab the antidote. You need to get out. I can't leave.
In regards to gameplay, the gameplay is very similar to Spider-Man for the PS4 and
They invited this dude, but not me. Okay, Sony. Okay.
Miles Morales, open world in third person, with optional quests and a very elaborate main story. I'm very used to criticizing Ubisoft for always following the same formula with its IPs. In the case of Spider-Man, I simply cannot use the same criticism, because even though the gameplay is very similar to the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man, it has several new features and is a clear evolution of the previous games.
Blast on, Spider.
Also, it is very polished, much more than the usual open world game.
What am I looking for in these reviews? I'm just looking for new information, right? Just how Jake Baldino talked about loop-de-loops that no one else ever mentioned, right? Hollow Man didn't mention it. IGN, GameSpot, Push Square, you know, all these other reviewers didn't mention loop-de-loops. So a lot of these people, that's why I watch a bunch of reviews just to see if there's any new content that I missed. That's all. Or if there's any cons that, you know, because everybody's talking about how they love it and everything. It's interesting. What I like to hear is what people find to be negative or a drawback. Because then I get to, you know, I get to temper my expectations, but I also get to see if they're freaking, you know, their issue is just, you know, a nitpick or irrelevant. That's all.
The thing that really surprised me in Spider-Man 2 are the cutscenes, which are very intense and with amazing cinematography.
This is just cookie cutter shit. Amazing cinematography, cutscenes are tense. It's just not my type of content, that's all.
And some scenes are action-packed and even feature. One moment we're in an intense fight with Peter Parker.
How was that? I don't know. I was just so.
Then we have a narrative-driven cutscene.
Alright, yeah, I'm not into that.
I am Tomo.
GameSpot. GameSpot review is funny. 7 ways having Venom suit in your brain is bad. Okay. Who was this? Somebody said it. Something Afro Ninja. Afro Ninja. Oh, is this it? Marvel Spider-Man 2 is real. Did he play it? Marvel Spider-Man 2 is easy.
Oh, damn, that was too much. I meant to do like a. So I went to LA recently to go play Spider-Man 2 and another game I can talk in this of like, oh my god. And the game itself was fire too. Hold on, listen to me. We played this game sitting in a nice comfy couch. Right, brother. Stuck out to me and why I say this is better than the first game, because there's just so much, bro. It's so much, and I just really want to go over every little bit of it and focus on that mainly, and then we can just have a little reaction towards the end with the cutscenes. Is that cool? Can we do that? Shake my head. All right, you didn't shake it. It's fine. It's cool. Yeah, so as you're going through this little doohickey, you got the little dodges you got to do. I simply didn't dodge with circle because I'm different, and I just moved around like a real man. Oh, cutscene. So a majority of what I played was in the black suit. Because why would you not? The suit was amazing. You don't have to use the suit to use the abilities, but I just like having the whole aesthetic. I've seen the person next to me have the regular suit and still use the symbiote abilities. Couldn't be me personally, but I did experiment with a few things when it comes to that suit. Combat is just like how it was before. Only main difference, you're kind of broken. There's no other way to put it, bro. Like you have moves like the symbiotic blast, you can just alter in between like this. Amazing. You have other little moves that you can do on the left side. Those are all the abilities per Spider-Man has in my.
Makes sense because you have the symbiote and you have the gadgets. So the symbiote suit has his own powers, and then on top of that you have the gadgets, which is why I don't like the gadgets.
And then on the right is the gadgets. Yeah, this. Yeah, who's gonna beat you, bro? It's just not happening. I think what they did to, I guess, offset the fact that you're just significantly more overpowered is they have a lot more enemies in these sequences. Not particularly this one, but when you're out the area, you're in like the main little dome circle place. They just keep on coming, and you just got to keep on hitting.
You're gonna regret ever coming here.
And you hear how Peter's doing the little dark side tones, bruh. So good. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you have to try hard to die this time around. You're just too strong. Look at it, bro. Oh, so what he's doing right now, so when you do like, you know, the ultimate moves, the black suit symbiote just has this everybody dies thing, and he just does cutscene animation kills after like 2 or 1 hit, and it's just insane. It's insane, bro. He's never lost in his life. He's never lost in his life. I'm sorry it's pausing periodically, but it's so sick, bro. And that's one of the gadgets. He just pulls everything close, and then you go to the Miles Morales sections, which there's one thing that I hope they put in, because this was an early, like I gotta mention, this was a specific build for everybody who came to this event to play. So it's not going to be the final build, but because that's the case, Sony, I have a request. You know, in the Miles Morales DLC, Miles has some cool little spin techniques. He didn't really have it here, and I didn't know how to get it, so just put it in there with Miles. I wanted to do the phone thing, going back. I miss it. I need that.
Oh,
please.
What? The phone thing when he's swinging? Bro, they didn't have that? Hold up. I know they didn't get rid of that. That would be stupid.
I wanted to do the phone thing, going back. I miss it. I need that.
Is he saying they didn't have
Miles
that?
has some cool little spin techniques. He didn't really have it here, and I didn't know how to get it. So just put it in there with Miles. I wanted to do the phone thing, going back. I miss.
Bruh, no, they wouldn't remove that. That would be stupid, bro. There's no way they would remove that. There's no way they would remove that. If they added loop-de-loops, there's no way they would remove the freaking, the epic freaking phone and him doing this and all that. Stop it, bro. Lucas, I just saw an article on Facebook that said supposedly Secret Wars will be Hugh Jackman's final film as Wolverine. Secret Wars? Bro, they have Hugh Jackman and then Toby and everything. Like I said, I stand by it. If they do Spider-Man 4, I will get a tattoo. I will get a Spider-Man tattoo. If they do Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire, it's tattoo time. I've already said that multiple times. That would be insane, though.
I need that. Please.
You're not getting away.
Please. All right, but this section was so cool because it's a gliding little mini, I wouldn't puzzle, nah, not really. So basically you have to stay
yeah, we got that.
Inside this. Like if I was very close to a building, but after it gets to 100, you finish that little, I don't know what you call this, little mini game thing, you just crush the robot. I did have a lot more fun playing Spider-Man or Black Suit Spider-Man than Miles, but Miles was still cooking. Miles was still cooking. I think I'm just more of a fanboy for the Black Suit symbiote, as I'm sure everybody else is, right? That's just the most iconic Spider-Man, one of the, besides Superior Spider-Man. But y'all ain't ready for that conversation, bro. Y'all ain't ready. All right, this part's cool. It's the same scene before, but just Miles doing it. You know that little kick combo that we saw Black Suit Spider-Man do?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of the same combos, but there are differences. I think the one little cool, you might miss it, but the one cool thing that I love with Miles, you know how in the end of the DLC, I don't want to spoil that, but you know, he did a thing where he absorbed energy and it was blue. So he has blue techniques that come from what happened in that ending. And you can go back to the yellow ones too, the yellow lightning, like little moves as well. You can switch between them. It's really cool that Miles has his own little upgraded combat features while Peter is going sicko mode. All right, good dodge. Good dodge, good dodge. Yeah, bro. Oh my gosh, this is so sick. Even in the first game, they really didn't need to do too much with the combat because they just nailed it, bro. They nailed it perfectly. The little so that's one of his new moves too. He just teleport to the nearest enemy and just jump on them, does like an AoE attack. It's sick. It's sick. It's sick. It's sick. It's just sick. It's just sick, bro. I take it back. I take it back. Miles and Peter, I just had an 11, bro. I would love to see like a symbiote variation of Miles, but I think the only symbiote Miles ever interacted with was Carnage. Correct me if I'm wrong. And he wasn't even in control of that. That's not a version we can play with. But yeah, web swinging. There are some tricks. There are a little different tricks that Miles does have to Peter, but you have to really pay attention to see him. At least I did. Maybe I'm tripping, or maybe it was just placebo and they're just the same tricks, but the movement is just perfect, bro. Like the speed, one thing that I thought when I saw the glider is what the point do I have the web? Like I thought this is too broken, but you really do have to use both. And when you do, it's perfect, bro. Chef's kiss. Okay, the crime stuff is just like how it was before. The movement is just so crazy, brother. It's just so fucking crazy, bro. I can't get over it. Yeah, but just like before, there's like certain crime things that happen over the city. You finish them with the bonus objectives that you have shown on the right, and then you unlock certain currency here. You could customize, but I guess I'll talk about that towards the end. Miles had so many outfits in this build that I was able to see that I just can see myself playing over this regular build. That might be considered a spoiler, so y'all might not want to see that, but
that a spoiler? Yeah,
the city. So I know there were some complaints that I saw people talking about where it's just the same city. I know in the PlayStation State of Play, they talked about how they opened up a whole nother section of New York that you can explore. I feel like that tied with the first city we played in, it just feels like a whole new thing to me. Like the draw distance, which you're able to see, if you compare it from the first game to this, I hope somebody else is here that understands the just the clear bias of this shit I have. It's just so good, man. I will say this is probably the best. I mean, I would say the first game was the best web swinging we had, even the Miles DLC. But this just tops it, bro. See, look how smooth the transition between the glide and that is, man. Oh man, we weren't able to record like audio and stuff like that while we are in there, so you know this is why I'm doing everything post. But it was sick. It was sick. Oh, and yeah. So this is a new little side map objective thing. You know how in the first game you had what was it? You collected Peter's. It was like time capsules or cameras or something like that. Something like that, and he had something special to say about each one of those things he collected. In this one, you're collecting spider bots, and the same concept, like whether you're Miles or Peter, they have specific dialogues based on the kind of spider bot you picked up. Like for instance,
this one seems really high tech.
This is the type of mofo who gasses up that Spider-Man can shoot webs. Stop it. You think we might get a young Wolverine as a replacement? Nope. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happen. Maybe a reboot. A reboot possibly, but nah, not anytime soon.
Yeah, and I believe there's one that I saw that was really cool that I wish I was able to pick up with Miles. It was the Into the Spider-Verse spider bot, and Peter is just like, this reminds me of someone I know, but I would love to see what Miles would have said to that. But besides that,
well, that's true because Peter was in the he was in the movie.
Take a look.
The crime stuff does. There was a pretty cool variation I saw between like some helicopter things you have to do in a certain way or people are dying. But with this, you can just kind of see the enemy types, the new ones. These are all Hunter or Kraven's, I guess, goons. I don't know a better way to put it. To me, I'm seeing a lot of inspiration of like, what's his name, bro? The Vulture, something like that. It's one of the.
Yeah, I'm not really fond of these new bots because they're not doing anything. The bots are just doing what the guys who were flying in the DLC were doing. I think they're doing less.
The iconic villains we've seen in the Sinister Six.
And then the Jaguar bots, they're not really doing anything. I think. Well, I haven't seen them do.
I believe that maybe in some way or another he's connected to some of the tech that Kraven has, but I could just be capping. I don't know a lot about Kraven, so. Now within Miles's missions, there's these little sub puzzles. I could.
Y'all see that suit damage? Y'all see the suit damage? I wonder how bad it gets. I wonder how bad the suit damage gets. That would be awesome.
Just be capping. I don't know a lot about Kraven, so. Now within Miles's missions, there's these little sub puzzle sections that I really hope.
Don't care.
I don't mind them mixing that up so it's not a door, but opening up other things for Miles to proceed. But this is just so much cooler to me. You flush the toilet so he turns his back, then you go under there and away where he's looking that way and he shoots back. Use that suit. Damn. Oh, that's hard. Oh, that's hard. So per costume, you have different gliders, which is fucking sick. I didn't see that for Miles because that's what I mainly switched to a lot, because Miles has just his regular colored things, but I'm sure he has certain suits where he has something like this too. The Iron Spider, bro. Oh shit. He probably has the same thing he used in the movie, but regardless, even though in this scene you're seeing Spider-Man or Peter use other costumes.
What if Blade got his own game? That'd be cool. That would be very cool. But we still need to see more of Wolverine, and we need to see more of Iron Man, because there is an Iron Man game in the works.
I believe he's still supposed to just be in the black suit. Like, this is where this segment takes place in the story. So you can, and you will be in your black suit certain times and still can use your symbiote powers in all these other suits. Like, for instance, in this main mission, I think this boy, if you don't. All right.
Hey, Doc. Ready for your annual physical?
Oh, brother. Oh, look at the size comparison. All right. Frame one, got a health bar. Needed that. Needed that. Loved that. I don't think they had that in the first one. I think you just beat it up to a certain degree. I'm gonna shut up a little bit so you can hear the dialogue. But nah, bro. I'm gonna be honest. This boss fight, if you're not good with the mechanics, you're gonna get messed up. There's a parry button. There's a parry you have now, by the way.
You made some mistakes, but it doesn't
Hold on.
have to end like this.
How the parry works, you know the spider senses when it's yellow, white, you dodge. When it's red, if you press the block, or in this case it'll be L1, right when it's red, you do a pushback. And then you do that, and it's over. Well, just phases. And a lot of variations of the black suit with Peter, you don't see it symbioting this heavy, right? Or I mean, it depends, but normally you just see it like a suit, and then when you see it symbiote, it's just kind of like towards the ending bits of that arc where Peter's gonna get rid of the suit, right? But it seems like for the duration while he has this black suit, it's just been working how Venom does. Oh, sick. Yeah, so there's some people I saw that were saying that Peter could be Venom, and because of just how I seen this suit interact with him, I could see it. I could see it.
You're not helping.
All right, after that segment, you have to chase him, and this was a far more entertaining chase segment, I would say, than the Rhino, because Buddy was mobile, and the dodging midair. It's the same as Rhino too, but maybe I'm just biased. This is a possibility. I just think Rhino's a shit-ass villain. But yeah, once you get close enough, or just follow him for a little bit of time, you can get in with triangle. And this is nearing everything I was able to play. Oh, good dodge. Oh my gosh, bro. So I don't want to say too much of the plot here, but the lizard not really fucking with Kraven, but Kraven fucking with the lizard. That's all I'm gonna say.
describe the story. Lizard's not really fucking with Kraven. The Kraven's fucking with the lizard.
Stay away!
That's why you see
awesome.
Kraven's men here.
That was hilarious.
Oh man.
Getting real sick of
Now
this lizard
the glider did go crazy in this little segment too. It just that's mostly what I used to chase him because it was bro.
Time for this.
Got you. All right. I think that's it, right?
And I am joined by
Did you
Lucy
forget your own name there?
James. I regretted saying "What's up, gamers" immediately.
Yeah.
It started off as a joke, but now I'm deadly serious about it. We have played Insomniac's Marvel's Spider-Man 2, the sequel to Insomniac's Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, technically.
Yes.
That was the last entry. But yeah, so we came to LA and we checked out a decent chunk of the game. 2 to 3 hours. Yeah, we got to mess around in the open world and also do a few of the kind of key main story missions. And overall, I am unsurprised with what it is, but also kind of excited by some of the new things that they've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway is if you liked Marvel Spider-Man, if you liked Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, you're gonna like this game. It's a lot more of the same. It's just...
It's surprising because like saying it's more of that is both, it sounds slightly down on it, but
it's not, because that game was so good.
You have to remember that what more of that is one of the best superhero experiences that you can have in a video game medium. And they have done a lot of interesting little tweaks that when you play them, the previous games and this one, like back to back, side by side, you realize how significant they are. But when you're actually playing them, you feel like there hasn't been that many big sweeping changes. I think the thing that immediately stuck out to me was the kind of traversal is, in a lot of ways, it feels the same, but actually it's much quicker and it's much more streamlined.
So that wingsuit that they debuted in one of the PlayStation showcases is a big new addition.
Yes.
And getting around New York, swinging around was always super fun. But now both Miles and Peter have the wingsuit. And it first of all, it is wild just how far you can go with it. I really anticipated I would just, kind of fall to my doom a little bit.
You can fly. You basically can fly. Yeah.
But a clever thing that they've done to make getting around even more fun, to kind of encourage people to use it, because you could just still do it relying on web swinging. But if you use the wingsuit, there are kind of these air currents that really just speed you along. There are certain side activities. Kraven the Hunter has these drones, and what you could do is use your wingsuit, get in the slipstream, follow them, and it's just really fun. It just kind of adds a little something. And so I found myself very quickly not just.
Gotcha, it's fun. Well, I think that's what we got, bro.
This week in PlayStation, we're talking about Tim
and Peter, how they're out. But
that was a shiny dumper there, by the way.
Oh yeah, the Venom jump is there's a lot of
looking like a
and it's cool that the game seems to want to get away.
It's completely underrated, but it serves rad. Deserves a remake. Deserves a sequel. That's what it needs. Give me a second. Let me get some drink. Definitely deserves a remake, bro. I mean, not a remake, a sequel. 100%, bro. Let's continue.
Concept of like towers and the more old school open world approach that the other games had that are very the Ubisoft formula,
like
right?
standard, like, all right, let's slowly open up this map and like that's the first thing you focus on is like, all right, let me make sure I got all this stuff unlocked, and then start clearing things out from there.
Open World 101. So
Yeah,
exactly. It's really kind of taking a lot of what we expect and just repackaging it in a way that feels fresh. So it's focusing on like filling out the districts and getting percentages of those districts done to be able to add more points of interest and do more, which sounds very similar to how they did it before. It's just the way it's presented feels more seamless, like of it all. It's presented in a way that doesn't feel as checklisty. It feels a little bit more like just a natural experience and seamless between the gameplay and going out and looking like what you need to do. And one of my favorite things about the Insomniac Spider-Man games is there's a narrative that's really good with characters that I am actually invested in. And when the little lore radio shows pop up, I want to hear what they have to say. And it feels like there's an impact to it, and that the world is living, and every time you turn it on, the crime's happening. And if back to Spider-Man 1, and I was which I did last night, and I was like, oh my god, like
he
so
has
much
an
of this
interview?
feels archaic.
No, I haven't
so
seen
it's
that.
a weird thing where I think that people are going to play Spider-Man 2 and be like, oh, it's just more of the same. But really, it's extremely different. One of the biggest ways for me is in the first game, there's the backpacks that are hidden all over the place, right? Or there's the all the different collectibles.
How does this kid afford so many backpacks is my question.
That's a great question. You know,
allowance.
There's still those type of things in the game, but instead of it being a pull up a menu and kind of see the checklist of where they all are, you're kind of drawn to them a bit more naturally in the world. And some of it is instead of like looking at a menu and then going in, you're just swinging through the city and like there's a big glowing orb in the sky, and you're like, okay, well, clearly that's something. But like it video gamifies it a little more than Spider-Man 1 did, but in a way that I feel like keeps the action of you moving through the city in Spider-Man. And here you can see there's these but maybe even more so, I'm on my way to the next story beat and I want to know what happens, and I care so much about these characters, but I'm seeing 4 different things that draw my attention, and I'm like, well, Spider-Man.
The original Spider-Man video games had to do with how alive the city felt, and right, like it's all that stuff started to get a little bit monotonous. I wanted to know, like, when you are on the ground floor, what are the differences in this game when you are walking around? Is it just the same old NPCs going, "Hey, Spider-Man," taking a photo with you?
Do a backflip.
Are you able to? Are there any buildings that you can actually walk into where it doesn't do that weird fixed camera thing, and you kind of walk in like this weird sort of orthographic view?
No.
Is the ground life a lot more realistic feeling?
So,
That's
I
such
will
an
say
interesting
yes.
question.
I don't know by how demonstrable of a degree, but I will say that Spider-Man 2018 compared to Miles Morales, I feel like Miles Morales tripled down on the character of Harlem, right? Of being in there and seeing like how the Christmas affected the city, and being able to see like the actual local storefronts, and it just kind of felt
They are saying a whole bunch of nothing.
more alive, if not even in the people, but just more in the set dressing of it, not just feeling like a bunch of buildings next to each other, but actually feeling like the district itself had an identity. I noticed a lot more of that in this game, kind of just applied to all of Manhattan, but then even more so, the moment that you get to go across the bridge over to Queens was special. Like it felt like, you know, I've been playing these games for 5 years now, and when you get near the bridge, you get near the water, it gets kind of awkward, and you like can't go any further, but like you see the bridge. And I remember playing like Grand Theft Auto 3 for the first time.
Verrazano Bridge.
You get that moment where you get to like go across the bridge, and it's like there's more of this game. The map is double the size in Spider-Man 2.
Let's go.
And
Yeah, I guess one of my questions also was any of it closed off from you in the demo?
No. It was pretty open, and they set us off. I don't know how far into the game, but it felt deep enough that it was definitely not the beginning. Peter had the suit to start, the symbiote suit, and I played probably equally as Peter and Miles, maybe a little bit more Peter of it all.
Okay.
But what's really cool about this game compared to the other ones is you do play as both.
He's gonna dress. He's
There's a trailer that we got to see that I think is now out for everybody. I feel this of the whole thing where a lot of what I'd play, I'd say was like 70% like the core main mission stuff, and 30%.
And not have them be just trophy hunts, you know?
And of the same type of like I was finding a guy, got on the van, had to go and hit him on the windows and stuff. It felt fresh. It felt like new animations. Ton of new animations in this game. I feel like that's something that, like, even like just the poses that they make.
How was the wingsuit?
Dude, I'll get to that in just a second. Because
was that like the not Captain Falcon? Was that
the Falcon?
The Falcon's wingsuit?
Yes, it was.
In characters, like obviously us playing the other games, it's like 2018 was so tied to Peter and Aunt May, and
this fool asked him about whether you can go inside a building, and bro just replied with verbal gawk.
That cast of characters, and then the Miles game really got intimate with like building out his community. And
why would you go in the building anyway?
All of his friends and Genki and his mom and those characters feeling so, I feel like, great. And playing this, going back and forth between Peter and Miles and their side characters, felt like watching Infinity War and having Thor and the Guardians kind of meet up, where it's two of them back and forth between Miles getting this story stuff. And again, what I loved so much about 2018 story-wise was because playing the game felt like
this does not need to be an hour-long video, bro. He's got about maybe 10 minutes worth of content.
We said this when we were playing Final Fantasy 16 at the preview a couple months ago. Like, it kind of feels like playing through seasons of a TV show. This feels like playing through a season of a really good Spider-Man. There are progression forward.
Okay, I don't want to hear any of this. He's just blathering on. Let's see this interview.
Your Taskmaster 2 suit, which is a clean-looking suit with a more suit inspired by missions, it really has a certain new satisfaction. Now, we don't have footage of some of the cooler ones, but I promise you, you're in for a nice surprise. I also love the feel of the parry system. The default windows pan out as good as
I would pretty much do anything, absolutely anything, to work on a Marvel game. And I said, I think we could do a really great job. I remember at one point saying, like, I give up like my left arm to do it. Now, coincidentally, many years later, my arm was scanned for Spider-Man 1. So I actually did give up a little bit of my arm to do it. But yeah, I just felt like, you know, I was just such a big Marvel fan growing up. 9 years later, now we're working on Spider-Man. I have one of the best jobs in the world.
And lucky for me, I got to play hands-on with their amazing team created. Okay, so there were two things that stuck out to me at first. The first thing was the sound design, and this is surprising. Like the whole freaking. This was in both the cutscene. Now, the second thing that was so much now is it to another knock Starfield. I need to see the part of the phase, and then there's just the seamless transition to another phase in a completely different environment or world, and you don't even realize it. It just boggles my mind how cool or challenging it might be to be able to have an environment theme of a cutscene. It's really some cool. So
I think the thing is, when you realize you're going to work on something so beloved and popular and passionate fans, you continually worry: is it going to live up to expectations? Is the story going to be as good as they expect? Is the gameplay gonna, are you going to deliver on swinging through a city or combat or this Peter story, or if you're going to bring in Miles, all those kind of those risks, when we brought Miles into the same universe, that was something unexpected. Peter working for Otto in the first game, it was all like, we tried to find like, how do we respect the DNA of the franchise, but how do we mix things? Everybody, there's always that nervous excitement that, we're doing something that I hope people really like, but you're always going, I just hope they like it. I just hope they like it.
The jitters. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of
you use the L1 button in combination.
I don't know if that was tied at all. Like, I just know that, when I was told that we were, it was many months later, I was told that we were going to join PlayStation. I was extremely excited. Like, I just thought it was, we'd been working with Sony for so long. We know our, and it's, when we get all that, now obviously part of my job is to take all that feedback and figure out how we act on it. But, I would say that's, if you became a Spider-Man fan because of that, because of Spider-Man 1, a large part of that is because of the support we get from those two groups.
What two groups?
To me, in many ways, they have made me support, and these are people who've made our, if you look
and deal with.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, like if you look at the business side, like there's Sony HQ and our producers and something, but like truthfully, we're all kind of one team. Like I think Booth, like
Videos, Gorilla, nothing.
So it's made me out to be part of that. But yeah, I mean, if you played God of War, you know those are really good stories and they're really good writers, and having them look at things. So for myself, I know our writers have been in touch with them. I'm not sure how much we've gone back and forth on their stuff, but I see if any time we can get feedback, getting some fresh perspective from UX. We're always looking to get feedback on the game to make it better wherever it comes from.
How can I get on the list of the friends and family? I'm kidding, but no, that's so fun because I also just want to talk about, we mentioned God of War, that I'm all
game launches we all come out and support each other because we also know how hard these games are to make.
Yeah.
It's very complicated. It takes a lot of hardworking people. A lot of people work really, really hard on these things. So, just getting a game out is an accomplishment in itself. And then when
I agree. The hard like really gets in the of a game, especially nowadays in the age of social media. So I want to ask you personally, how do you view them? Like, do they affect you at all, or like, what is your entire stand with when it comes to reviews?
I mean, obviously, we want the game to be received well.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, I think something I talk a lot about myself. You definitely can get into that mode of looking at the reviews. I think what I always tell myself at the end of the day is, can I look at myself in the mirror and say we did everything we possibly could to make that game great? And that's the
God, I hate that suit. All right, I've seen enough. Sequels. Let's see. What was? Let's see. What was the sequel? Let's see. God of War 2 review. 14 years ago. What new things did they add in God of War 2 they didn't have in God of War 1? God of War 2 was
Sony
amazing.
Santa Monica Studios' follow-up to the original God of War. Back in 2005, when the first game was released, we gave it a number of our awards that year, including our overall Game of the Year pick.
Yeah.
For a very good reason,
Game
as
is
it's still
amazing.
one of the best action games ever released.
That is
The
true.
follow-up, God of War 2, actually surpasses the original in basically every single way across the board.
Wow.
Santa Monica Studios has actually managed to one-up themselves and create a better game all around. Every
How?
area has been improved, although being that the first game was so good and pushed the PlayStation 2 to its limits already, most of the improvements are minor and more evolutionary steps rather than revolutionary steps. The story in God of War 2 picks up where the first game left off, with Kratos sitting atop the throne
So
of
good,
God of
bro.
War.
So good.
The story in the second game is deeper, it's longer, it's more complicated than the first time around.
Yeah, the story's
There's
good.
a
We
lot
got
of
that.
character
What about the
development here,
gameplay?
where things aren't necessarily right and wrong or black and white, but it's more about perspective, about the perspective from Kratos' view, perspective from the gods' view, perspective from some other characters that we're not going to spoil. So it's not so much as, this guy's right and this guy's wrong, and you're going to get revenge because it's been done wrong. It's about who really wants power, who, etc. And it's a really cool setup, only up there, identical to the first game, and for good reason, as that was basically perfect. Kratos has a few new moves here and there, and basically sort of replacing last ones or tweaking them a bit. But in large part, it's exactly the same. So if you're used to the controls in the first game, you can jump right in, right from the start, and start killing everybody. There are some pretty cool new grab kills where, like, you can rip guys in half, or you'll grab some guy's weapon and chop him to bits with it, or spin him around and stab him with his own sword, which is pretty sweet. But in large part, the combat is exactly the same as before, and that's really a great thing, because I can't see how they could have gotten any better anyway. So yeah, there's nothing new here, but again, it was already perfect. While the game's combat is largely the same as the last time around, there are a couple new things. You have new magic attacks, you have new weapons, and you now have the ability to grapple onto things and swing across caverns, which is pretty cool. It's very Indiana Jones-esque, and there's especially one scene in the game that's very, very cinematic and that works with that really well. As far as magic is concerned, you have a couple returning favorites like Poseidon's Rage and something to do with Medusa's Stare, but you can get a couple new ones, and all of them are very cool, all of them are very useful. As was the case with the last time around, it's sort of more important, especially at the beginning of the game, to use your red orbs to power up your Blades of Chaos, or Athena's Blades in this case. But all the magic is really cool this time around. There are also a handful of new weapons, which I don't want to get into specifics about, so I don't want to ruin them. but they're all really cool, and the game does a really good job of letting you switch between them on the fly in the middle of combos and use them well. And all the new weapons have good purposes. They're not sort of throwaways like you might have seen before. One of the things that made the first God of War so good and so memorable was the epic scale of the whole game.
Yeah.
You'll just see environments that are absolutely huge. Ireland,
Yeah,
and you might.
man, God, that was so good. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. Assassin's Creed 2. Review. I still think this is the best Assassin's Creed ever. Assassin's Creed 2 was just amazing.
And improves upon the core mechanics of the first game.
Okay.
The story picks up directly after the first one, with Desmond, the main character in modern times, escaping from Abstergo. Desmond teams up with the assassins and hops back into the Animus, this time by choice. The goal is to train himself as a deadly assassin by experiencing the life of his ancestor, Ezio Auditore de Firenze. We jump back to Renaissance Italy, and the fun begins.
Afraid to handle things yourself? Your sister seemed quite satisfied with the handling I gave her earlier.
Hey.
Uccidetelo!
Uccidetelo.
I'll kill you for what you've done! Guards! Arrest him!
Right off the bat, the game sets up an intriguing tale of revenge in both the past and the present. There's solid story development, and while the control option can be almost overwhelming at times, there's a lengthy in-game tutorial that holds players' hands as they learn to free run, pick pockets, do combat, hide, and of course assassinate their targets.
What was new?
Assassin's Creed 2 is a visual delight. The animations are still top-notch, and the dramatic music rounds out a high-caliber presentation. The Renaissance setting also adds a dose of much-needed color and humor to the series.
Do I know you from somewhere? Don't you recognize me?
It's me, Mario.
It's me, Mario!
You'll want to play with the subtitles on just to catch all of the comical Italian banter between the characters.
It's me, Mario. Yeah, so good, man.
The excellent free running system from the first game has returned, and is noticeably faster, making exploration more enjoyable. It also helps that Florence, Venice, and other Italian cities are the perfect setting for Ezio's acrobatic antics. Combat is also brutal and gory. There are a bunch of weapons to purchase, and you'll likely buy all of them just to watch the unique animations they trigger during a fight. The most important improvement to Assassin's Creed 2 is the streamlined mission structure that always points players towards the meat of the game. The mission that progresses the storyline is always marked with a big exclamation point on the minimap, and this time around the missions are much more varied and definitely more exciting. There's no sitting on benches required. The addition of a monetary system means that there's a good reason to go treasure hunting, and it adds a host of shops to the city, including one for armor and weapons. It's just another layer that makes the Italian cities
You're crazy, bro.
more vibrant and believable than the first game. The stealth has also improved, and now players can blend with any large crowd of people, as well as hire thieves, mercenaries, and whores to distract specific targets.
You said whores. Bro. So they didn't have an AC1. Damn. Because I remember it was benches only, right? Now you can just blend in with crowds. God.
And now that players can disarm opponents and purchase a wide range of weapons, the combat is deep and enjoyable. The counter and kill animations alone make confrontation a thrilling option.
You can disarm people.
Assassin's Creed 2 is a meaty game, clocking in at 18 hours for a normal playthrough, and there are hours of side missions and diversions. There are tombs to be found that include some excellent Prince of Persia platforming and an entire villa that players can upgrade by purchasing art and architectural improvement.
If you release me, we'll spare your lives. Ah! Listen to me! Ah!
If you weren't thrilled with the first Assassin's Creed, it's likely that your problems have been addressed. The sequel does include a few flaws, one being that it isn't exactly difficult. Aside from flying off
where are the improvements? So I played AC2 in 2022. Okay, AC2 is good until it isn't. AC2 unpolished and unrefined. The worst in the trilogy? I don't want to see that. He's a liar. It's a perfect sequel. Okay. Here we go.
Hey, you're watching part 2 of a
Worse
series
than the
where I go over
trilogy.
each mainline Assassin's Creed. So, Assassin's Creed, one I've played before. Along
Bro,
with every
I'm not watching a fucking hour-long video. So I played Assassin's Creed 2 for the first time in 2003. Was it worth it? Yes, it was worth it. Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 2 Remake. Assassin's Creed 2, the most important game Ubisoft ever made. Everything great about Assassin's Creed 2.
This video is sponsored by World of Warships.
Nice.
I have to play it because, oh boy, was the first game of Slave World more cool. Ships in his deck. For 400 customized figures that made.
I'm gonna need a mine.
Love that Desmond doesn't really understand what's at stake right now. It's just kind of being a
Wind
goof.
counter.
It's a nice little touch that Desmond can't really
nice.
fight yet. All you can do is punch.
After what those Templar bastards put me through, I'm ready, willing, and able.
Desmond doesn't even hesitate, just ready to go right away. Sometimes it's better just to go all in than sit and deliver.
Oh, God. There's no one who has Assassin's Creed Christ? What? Oh, my God. Assassin's Creed 2. What are some other... Because apparently they did a lot. Now you can blend into the crowd. New executions. It's a new area, right? So now you're in Italy. It's a location change. Man, they did a lot. So, I mean, Spider-Man, you can't have a location change because that's where Spider-Man is. So they added more to where you could to swing. Batman, was it City? Improvements. How do you deal with your first breakup? First relationship at 25, she was 23.6 months relationship. I don't want to start over, but I don't know. What do you mean you don't want to start over? That's your only option, because it's a breakup. Learn what you did right, learn what you did wrong, and use that in the next relationship. Simple as that. What you should be doing is vetting. That's what you should be doing. Find out what you liked about her, what you didn't like about her, and vet for those attributes and characteristics in the next girl. Best way to play Batman Arkham City. Batman hates self. It's possible to beat Batman Arkham with no upgrades. Combat, Art of the Perfect Stealth, Batman pushed to his limits, Batman Arkham City. Let's see.
Hey, what's up, guys? Strike here, and welcome back to Batman.
That program
City.
dropping
In the
soon.
last
Stop it, not
episode,
2056.
The last side mission, that is. We completed the...
I don't know what the fuck that is. I just want, like, improvements. God. 5 versus Alex from 7. How to master combat. Art of perfect self-ambush and Batman.
So I just
City
made a
versus
review
Arkham
on
Asylum.
Batman Arkham City recently, and I think it would be the perfect matchup for it to
Story.
go up against Batman Arkham
Let's do
Asylum.
gameplay. It's a lesbian relationship? What? Oh, lesbian relationship. Those are the same thing. The principles are still the same.
Arkham Asylum did a very good job of laying the groundwork for gameplay in the Batman Arkham series. The
Okay.
free-flowing combat was extremely innovative for the time and was not only used in all the future Batman games, but also many other games like Insomniac's Spider-Man and the Middle-earth series.
There's not... Insomniac did not do the free-flowing combat. Please stop it.
The combat
I
in
wish that they
Asylum
did,
definitely isn't as smooth or refined as the future games in the series, however. You can't double counter, the game will randomly have you punch the air and lose a combo. You can't hit enemies on the ground. Like I said, it did a good job of establishing the groundwork, but it's definitely not perfect. Same situation with stealth. It's very fun, but quite simple and doesn't always work properly. The gadgets are fun to use, but you're quite limited in your selection. The boss fights are pretty good, some are a little repetitive and a bit annoying, like the Ivy boss fight and the final boss of the game, which is a bit underwhelming. I'm going to give Arkham Asylum an 8 out of 10 for the gameplay. It's still really fun, but it was definitely in need of some refinement, which is where Arkham City comes in. The combat feels significantly smoother in Arkham City. Of course, you can double counter, you have more range on your attacks, so it's easier to chain and build up combos. There's lots of new gadgets and tools, more enemy variety. The stealth feels more refined, and tools like the smoke pellet definitely help. Arkham City also introduced a pretty expansive skill tree where you could upgrade your armor and unlock a bunch of new moves and skills, like the Bat Swarm, for example. The boss fights in Arkham City are incredible. Many of them are very unique and require multiple different strategies to take an enemy out. The Mr. Freeze one, of course, is one of, if not the best in the whole series. Arkham City did exactly what I feel a sequel should in terms of gameplay, and that's just building upon what everyone really liked about Asylum and its combat, gadgets, and stealth, and just refined and added to it. It's an improvement in pretty much every way, so I'll give Arkham City a 9 out of 10 for gameplay.
The best way they can improve Spider-Man 2, world, I don't care about that, would be Spider-Man 2, like the combat, if you could do a finisher on multiple people. Right? Because I'm just thinking of simple ways to improve. Instead of coming up with something entirely new, but some little tweaks that they could do to improve. So I'm trying to think, that's what Arkham City did. That's what a sequel does. What are some other sequels I'm trying to think of? Batman. We had Assassin's Creed. Oh, I know. What's that PlayStation game? Oh my god. Where you get to choose whether you're evil or good and you use electricity? Oh my gosh. What is it called? I'm blanking. Electric superhero. What is it called? Yeah, this game. This is good. Dishonored? No. What is it called? Infamous. There we go. Infamous. Infamous 2. Infamous 2 better than the first. Infamous 2 improvement. Let's see Infamous 2.
Up in my suggested videos, but Infamous as a series is a really fascinating specimen of sandbox game design and just a fun-ass couple of games. Yeah, Second Son, I said couple. You know what you did, Del. My favorite game in the series, Infamous 2. There's a lot that I think Infamous 2 improved upon from Infamous 1, a more interesting setting, a better upgrade system, Cole not sounding and looking like a throat full of gravel, and an Agent 47 that got left out in the sun too long, respectively.
Just doing what I can.
You know, improvements like that. But while we're on the subject of Infamous 1 versus 2, let's just make a few things clear. For one, a lot of the praise I have for Infamous 2 could pretty easily be said for Infamous 1 as well, especially in regards to the sandbox and combat. This isn't a comparison video between the two, though that might be interesting somewhere down the line. This is basically why Infamous 2 does sandboxes better than a lot of other games. The video. It's an open world game, and like most open worlds, it's also essentially a third-person shooter. It may not look like it, but when your main mode of combat is zooming in over your character's shoulder and launching projectiles...
Let's do a review. Is almost a perfect sequel.
A perfect sequel is a game that improves on essentially everything from the first game. It expands the story told in the first game, expands the gameplay, and ideally sees some refined graphical fidelity. Now, a perfect sequel is not a perfect game in my eyes. I don't think Infamous 2 is a perfect game. A really good game? Hell yeah. But not a perfect one. With that being said, it improves on almost everything from the first game, and that in my eyes makes it damn close to the perfect sequel. Now, if you've not seen my video on Infamous 1, I highly recommend that you take a look at it, as it explains what I liked and didn't like, but I can very briefly give a recap here. Essentially, Infamous 1 was a really ambitious game, and as I argued in my video on it, too ambitious for its own good. The map seemed too large for the traversal abilities to keep up with, and it was even too large for the console to keep up with. Textures were often muddy, and pop-in was almost as numerous as the major frame rate drops, which would often tank into the single digits. Those same textures also just had a very muddy color scheme that made Empire City a bit of an eyesore at times. The story was pretty interesting, and despite being relatively simple on the surface, had a ton of lore and kept me engaged despite it being a little cheesy, which again, I didn't mind. The traversal was a little too primitive for me though, and there were too many skyscrapers with little ways to scale them effectively. Mission design was fun in some cases, but often felt like padding in others. The morality system did a really good job of justifying both the good and evil options, and your choices actually made a reasonable difference. The combat was a little too difficult for my taste, but not in a good way. I found too many enemies just flat out one-shotted you, and these same enemies had the ability to go invisible. Boss fights were often just okay, and they unfortunately were pretty unremarkable aside from the spectacle alone. Now, I want to clarify something from my—
Alright, let's go to
I love
Traversal.
it. Since we've already dipped our toes into it, we should talk about the Traversal. Cole here on foot moves similarly to the way he did in Infamous 1, though I swear his running speed has been increased a bit because he really looks like he's hauling ass. On top of that, due to the game's wonderful animations, he looks like he's putting all of his force behind him when he's on the grind rails, and the distance you go once you hit the end of that wire is huge. When you get the decision to swap powers with either Quo or Nyx, you get either the Firebird Strike or the Ice Launch. The Ice Launch gives you a sizable jump, and mixed with the thrusters, it can give some considerable distance. I appreciated that with the Ice Launch, it's the perfect height for you to get to the wires around the city, meaning you'll no longer have to climb up the pole, adding a new layer of efficiency and fun. The Firebird Strike, on the other hand, feels like a primitive smoke dash as it sends you straight forward, making clearing even the largest of gaps a breeze. The only issue I have with the Firebird Strike is that your momentum is immediately stunted upon exiting the strike, since it's a strike. I really wish you could gain some forward momentum from it, especially since in my experience I have yet to see too many people use this ability in combat, as most from what I have seen have used it for traversal purposes. The tether, on the other hand, as I mentioned, is a complete game changer and allows you to tether and pull yourself towards anything within the vicinity. I absolutely love this ability, and my only real complaint is that we don't get a ton of time to use it in the main
You don't have that in the first one, okay.
story.
Cool.
It seems like the game ends right after you get it, but I guess it is useful for side quests and cleanup in the post-game. The tether is the closest we're going to get to a Sucker Punch developed Spider-Man game, as you can cancel a tether midway through and throw out another in the air, leading to a lot of moments where you just don't touch the ground for minutes at a time. On top of the mechanics of the game is the ability to swap powers semi on the fly. All of your traversal abilities are mapped to R2, and you must swap between your Ice Launch, the Firebird Strike, and the Lightning Tether. I would have liked if we could map different powers to different buttons. I could potentially map the Firebird Strike to triangle and the Ice Launch to X, with the tether so fun. This is so much better when compared to Infamous 1, as it felt like the level design was always working against you. Another aspect in which the first game felt like the environment was working against you was in the combat. In the first game, as I mentioned, the environment was very flat, and I think that this was by design, so I don't want to hate
Look at why Marvel Spider-Man is better than Batman Arkham City.
on it too much. There were always places to take cover behind, but it made you play the game like a cover shooter. A lot of Cole's abilities felt like they were being pulled in both directions, as he had abilities that would stun or knock down an enemy, such as a grenade or the shockwave, which can be really useful when trying to get an enemy out of cover. On the other hand though, if you yourself are not behind cover, you'll be killed lightning fast. They gave you all of these powers that let you fire an electric bazooka from your hand, and yet made you frail as glass. Here, as I've already mentioned, with your increased vertical movement, you are able to avoid enemies way better, and getting to the high ground when necessary won't leave you exposed for a long enough time to die 5 times over. On top of that, a lot of the later game areas give you multiple different things to take cover behind, not just a basic stump or lump of sandbags. I won't bother going over the powers from the first game because I already covered them in depth in that first video, so I'll instead cover the new powers here, as there are quite a few. For starters, I'll talk about the brand new powers and then discuss the variants later. The Ice Launch and Firebird Strikes have already been commented on, but what I didn't mention too much is that the Firebird Strike can also be used in combat, though I didn't find a ton of use for it. I assume this is why it costs more than the Ice Launch to perform, as the Ice Launch only costs 1 bar of electricity while the Firebird Strike costs 2. When choosing to obtain Quo's powers, you also get access to the Ice Shield, which functions the same as the first game. And if you choose Nyx, you get to summon these little demon things called Spikers, and they're truly awesome. You also have access to some new finishing moves, the first of which being the Ionic Vortex. This summons a huge tornado down on the path in front of you and decimates everything in front of it. It was really convenient when there were a ton of enemies in a line in front of you, and not every enemy drops an Ionic charge, so I never found myself with the ability to really spam this. The Ionic Storm does return, but not until the late game, and it functions the same as the first game. The Ionic Drain is a variant of these Ionic abilities that allows you to bio-leech everyone in the immediate vicinity in one shot. And look at how many enemies you can take out with this. This shit's crazy. On Quo's end, you get the Ionic Freeze, which essentially freezes and incapacitates everyone in a 90-degree angle in front of you. Pretty cool, but ultimately pretty tame in comparison to the other abilities, and I think it might be the least useful. If you have a bunch of enemies in front of you and you need to take them out quickly, you are better off just using the Tornado. Also, returning from the first game is the ability to restrain enemies, heal injured civilians, and bio-leech them to consume their life force and heal yourself. It's nice for some quick karma points, but other than that, I didn't use them too often. So those are all of the new powers, and it may seem like there isn't much here, but that's because a lot of the quote-unquote new powers come from the variants assigned to your basic abilities. For example, you have your basic lightning bolt called the Alpha Bolt, which is a little pea shooter, but you can unlock a new variant called the Pincer Bolt, which sends out 3 bolts at a much slower fire rate that arc and hit your target. The advantages of using this is that because basic enemies on normal difficulty take 3 headshots to go down, you can knock somebody in literally 1 shot. The downside is that there is a slower fire rate, so if you're not hitting your shots, then you'll be in some trouble. There's also the Magnum Bolt, which sees you firing a single bolt, which allows you to hit enemies hard, but again, there is a slow fire rate. The difference between this and the Pincer is that the Pincer arcs, meaning that it can land some better shots on enemies behind cover. There's also the Rapid Fire Bolt, which turns the electric pistol you had on your hand to a submachine gun, and it's perfect for spraying and praying. I'd like to draw your attention to another change made to your basic bolt in this game, and that is that it now uses electricity. In the first game, you could fire this bad boy till the cows come home and it wouldn't drain your power, but here, not so much. It doesn't use that much power, but it uses enough that I found myself looking for a power source more often, and it prevented me from draining a power source and spamming my rockets, as I didn't want to leave my—
Alright, just improving what you had. How Just Cause was ruined, how to fix this, 5 changes. Just Cause 2. Just Cause 2 is still good. Just Cause 2, normally in chaos. Let's see Just Cause 2.
Just Cause 2 continues the adventures of Super Agent Rico. Just Cause 2 is a blast to play. The game's goal is to put you right in the middle of spectacular action set pieces that you'd find in a summer movie. You'll be jumping out of helicopters, crashing cars, detonating explosives, surfing jet planes, and tearing down statues. There is a lot to do and destroy here. There's also an incentive for causing as much havoc as possible. Stir up enough chaos and you'll be unlocking more missions and equipment.
Really didn't do anything.
You're always unlocking and upgrading things in this game, and that's really satisfying. However, I am disappointed that you don't gain experience when you kill soldiers. There are a ridiculous amount of enemies to fight and they just keep respawning. This can get aggravating, especially when you feel like you're just wasting ammo on them. Along those same lines, the checkpoint system also has a few problems to speak of. If you die during a mission, you're forced to travel all the way back to the starting point, which can take a while. You also lose all the items that you gained before you died. When you combine this problematic checkpoint system with the respawning enemies, you can get irritated. Minor frustrations aside, this is one of the most fun open world games I've played in a long time. The combat is good, but the combination of Rico's grappling hook and parachute really kicks it up a notch. Zipping around the island is awesome, and you—
What are the improvements, though? Just Cause 2 is the perfect Just Cause game versus Big Cause 2, Just Cause in comparison. Just Cause 4, Just Cause 2 is still gold, Just Cause 2. Just Cause 3 versus Just Cause 4. Just Cause 2. Man, still gold.
Alright friends, it's still gold time, and today we've got back various unforgivable acts of terror. Why? Because America Gold is a series where we do throwbacks. We go back, falling out of our helicopter straight into a military base. Because somebody decided to not strap it down, and now we've got to more shit up, make a day.
Alright, we're not gonna see any reviews, GameSpot reviews. Okay, just us two.
hijack the chopper, shoot up a military base, set the helicopter on a collision course for a fuel tank, and then parachute away from the bird right before it crashes and burns in an enormous explosion. There's a lot of crazy fun in here, and when Just Cause 2 gives you that kind of freedom, it soars. Unfortunately, targeting issues drag the gunplay down, and many of the missions simply stink. There are a lot of little glitches and annoyances that might get on your nerves, but when you're soaring over the mountains in a fighter jet or leaping from the roof of one vehicle to another, the frustrations are easily forgotten.
Damn.
The game's best asset, by far, is its gargantuan size. Just Cause 2 takes place on the island nation of Panau, and it's just enormous. You could spend countless hours in the capital city alone, and that's just a tiny corner of the map. From the snow-capped mountains to hidden forest villages to sun-drenched beaches, the game's got an incredible variety of areas to explore, and it gives you a ton of vehicles to do it in. Motorcycles, helicopters, speed
We need Hulk Ultimate Destruction too. That's what we need.
boats, fire trucks, passenger jets, and loads more. There are over 100 different vehicles to use, though if you want to make a quicker trip, you can extract quickly to a location you've already discovered. The vehicles handle mostly fine, though the crazy physics and loose aircraft handling can make some race challenges a frustrating hassle. The most fun way to get around, however, is to use your parachute and grappling hook in tandem, because it makes you feel a bit like Spider-Man, swinging around without a care in the world. Just Cause 2 is at its best when you're just tooling around looking for items like money stats.
Okay, that's not really helping me. Huh. Just Cause 2. All right. So, oh, Prince of Persia. 2 versus 1. I remember Prince of Persia versus Forgotten Sands comparison. Let's see. The Warrior Within. I love that one. That one was awesome. Forgotten Sands. Okay. Prince of Persia 2 review. Prince of Persia 2 review. Series. Warrior Within, man, that was so good. Two Thrones. What was Prince of Persia 2? What was Prince of Persia 2? Wasn't it Warrior Within? Okay, that's too long. Where is Warrior Within?
So, I really want to make today's video for quite a long time. A lot to say about it, and Prince, which introduced one of the most interesting game mechanics ever made. Beginning with the Sands of Time, we're introduced to the prince who unknowingly releases the Sands of Time and has to scramble to fix his mistake. After doing so, Warrior Within picks up with the prince and shows us that things didn't go quite to plan. Many years later, the prince is pursued by a weird demon.
Yeah, I just want to see the game, bro. Just give me the review, bro. What was the second Prince of Persia? Wasn't it Prince of the Two Thrones? Was that it? The Two Thrones review. Let's see.
We all make mistakes. Some are small.
Oh, the Two Thrones was not. Prince of Persia Harem Adventures? What? What? Oh, that's for this. No, I'm talking about Sands of Time, Warrior Within. Okay, Prince of Persia, Warrior Within. That's what it is. Review. That was the second one. A bloody masterpiece. Head of its time, Warrior Within. Warrior Within.
Of course, I'm here. I've never been late to any
Use
appointment.
time, development, design.
Prince of
Progression.
Persia Warrior Within is the sequel to the masterpiece that was The Sands of Time. This game takes the series in a much more mature...
Use of time.
I cannot begin to tell you how efficient from a development standpoint and narratively this game's story is. It takes place in the decrepit halls of the Island of Time,
Warrior
and its pristine
Within.
past finds it to take in, but all you need to understand is that the game takes place over two interchangeable timelines in the same location. For example, travelling through the Hanging Gardens.
There were no actual reviews? Here we go. GameSpot, wow. Back in the day.
Was an action-adventure in the truest
Bob
sense of the term,
Coleco.
offering awesome levels, fiendish puzzles, and of course, the acrobatic prince himself. Ubisoft has just released a sequel, Warrior Within, and it appears to have addressed the biggest complaints about the previous game by adding in a deeper combat engine and a lengthier campaign.
Nice.
While these are great improvements, the darker tone falls somewhat flat compared to the charming fairy tale atmosphere in the Sands of Time. But make no mistake, Warrior Within is still a very worthy sequel to last year's game. Warrior Within continues the prince's story from last year's game. Because the prince has unleashed the mystical Sands of Time, he finds himself chased relentlessly by a monster called the Dahaka. To escape this fix, the prince decides he must travel to the past and kill the Empress of Time in order to prevent the creation of the sands entirely. Sound like a conundrum to you? Well, if you can accept Back to the Future, you shouldn't have any trouble suspending your disbelief for the plot of Prince of Persia, Warrior Within.
Okay.
The game borrows a page from Zelda: A Link to the Past, in that you'll be exploring in the same areas in two different time periods. Special rooms scattered throughout the fortress allow you to shift back and forth between the past and the present. Areas of the castle will change accordingly depending on the time period. This back and forth time travel lengthens the game, but also means you'll be doing a little bit of backtracking. It isn't as pronounced as a game like Metroid, but for the most part, the Warrior Within still plays in a linear way. The good news is that the game's pretty long, about 15 or 20 hours. While the middle of the game feels like it drags a bit, there's an interesting plot twist toward the end that freshens the gameplay up and helps you keep going until the very end.
Gotcha.
The biggest new addition to the game is a deeper combat mechanic.
Deeper combat.
The prince can now do
Okay.
dozens of different weapon combos. With a
Okay.
single weapon in hand, you can grab enemies and throw them, or even strangle them. Dual wielding takes away your throw options, but allows you to perform much more powerful weapon combos.
Okay.
You can also choose to throw the weapon in your offhand at enemies to impale or behead.
So throwing the weapon, more combos.
You can of course still vault off of enemies and walls for more powerful slashing attacks, and a new pole swinging attack has been added. There's also plenty of blood and gore in Warrior Within to further spice things up. With all these new moves available, you can imagine that there's a lot more combat in Warrior Within than in the Sands of Time. Enemies will come at you several at a time, and you'll need to become proficient with your moves in order to survive. There are also a few boss fights in the game, but unfortunately there's quite a bit of recycling that's been done, so these aren't quite as memorable as they could have been. Despite the addition of the new combat engine, the real strength of Warrior Within, as in last year's game, is in the environmental puzzles. As the prince, you'll need to jump, wall run, climb, swing, and vault your way from ledge to ledge and branch to branch. You can also make controlled falls by stabbing into tapestries and sliding straight down. Completing the fiendish puzzles and navigating your way through each room is extremely fun and satisfying, and it's made all the more enjoyable by the well-animated moves of the prince and the beautifully designed levels. Several times throughout the game, you'll meet up with the mystical Dahaka. This kicks off an intense chase scene where you must navigate several sets of hazards very quickly, lest the Dahaka catch you. These sequences offer a nice change of pace and add to the game greatly.
Okay.
The biggest disappointment with Warrior Within actually has nothing to do with the technical gameplay itself. The game's taken on a much darker tone. The new prince is no longer the dignified, self-deprecating nobleman he was in the Sands of Time.
You got
Instead, he comes off as an...
Gotcha, it's darker tone. Don't like it. Gotcha. Alright, are there any other sequels that I should think about? Any other sequels? You got Prince of Persia, God of War, Assassin's Creed. What other sequels should I think about? Because based off of this, it seems like Spider-Man's doing just fine. Now, what is this? Why Spider-Man is better than Arkham
Under the
City?
Batman Arkham games are some of the most critically acclaimed games in gaming history. For me personally, I have 2 of the 4 Arkham games in my top 10 story games of all time, being Arkham City and Arkham Origins. And Marvel Spider-Man, spoiler alert, as you already read by the title, is in my opinion better than Arkham City. And it's also my favorite story game of all time.
Oh, Uncharted. Uncharted 2. Like Uncharted 2 really did it out of the park. Like, hit it completely out of the park. I could be wrong.
This isn't just a dagger.
Let's do gameplay.
The very good thing about the game is that since it doesn't take place solely on an island this time around, you're going to be in Nepal, you're going to have some street fights, you're going to be up in the mountains and the snow. You will, of course, kind of go into like catacomb type stuff. But there's a whole lot more variety here than we saw in the first game, which is really cool. There are multiple scenes in this game where the actual environment is moving around and changing as you're on it. There is a sequence that's on the train where you are fighting on it as it actually is moving through a level. And so as the train is kind of going around bends, if there's an enemy on the next car, you have to kind of compensate for that. And so it kind of brings the whole experience up to this, Hollywood level of $100 million blockbusters that, you kind of rarely see that sort of thing in video games. Now, like the first game, there's 3 main gameplay things you're going to be doing. You're going to be shooting people, you're going to be climbing the environment, and you're going to be solving puzzles. In terms of shootouts, basically that works exactly the same as it was before. You can still take cover, but what's really cool is that the levels are set up to be much more vertical than they were before, and to give you a lot more option in what you're going to do. The game is still very linear. You have to go to this very specific point. There's not really a whole lot of option in how you're going to kind of go around a thing, but when you are in a shootout, you can be, I want to go to the roof, or I want to go to the bottom, or I want to hang from this thing, or I want to kind of go around from the back, and it creates this much more dynamic feel to the fights than you had the first time. Now, one thing that actually does help the fighting a lot is, in the first game you could do lots of hand-to-hand combat, and that's a little more refined here, but I'm not really going to go into that. But what is really cool is that you can use stealth a lot better in this game than you can in the first one. So guys will still see you if you pop your head out, but if you manage to sneak up on somebody, you can take them down in a silent kill. You can yank them over walls or yank them over cover or whatever and take them out.
Better.
The one bad part about the stealth is that early on in the game there is a segment where you can't be seen. You have to go through kind of stealth, and both myself and Greg Miller, when we played through these, we found it a little bit frustrating because there wasn't as much help beforehand telling you how to do certain things or exactly where to go. And that really is the only segment of the game where I kind of felt like it was kind of misstepping or whatever. But once you get past that, the rest of the stealth and the way that you can use it is great.
Lights out.
For the puzzles this time around, without actually counting them, I would say that there are less than in the first game. However, the mix of time you're going to be spending is about the same. The way that they're handled this time around, and that they're bigger in scale, they're more intricate, and for me, they were more fun. Now, the big new thing for Uncharted 2 is that there is online play this time, both versus...
Well, here's the thing. Based off the reviews that I'm seeing of like sequels and stuff, there hasn't been a giant leap in gameplay from the sequel.
And co-op. For versus play, you get a whole lot of stuff. You have like team deathmatch, and you have elimination, and you have capture the treasure, which will be a huge, even a different goal. Very long. They're very, very fun.
All right, Uncharted, we got it. Feel like we're good.
But I want to give y'all some reasons as to why I think that and where my personal feelings lie between the games and both characters
Yes,
before I get
let's
into my
find
breakdown.
out why
First
you
off, I just
think
want to say that I have a very nostalgic attachment to all the Arkham games as a whole. The first time I played,
Yes,
trying to tell me this shit. So when my mom bought me Arkham City for the first time for Christmas, a game which will piss ran down.
Skip.
Then he has to put this chubby little fucker penguin down for the second time that night. Then he has to fight Solomon Grundy, and when he finally gets a breather from near death due to the drink of the League of Shadows gave him, he's instantly vaulted back into action with some stupid test trials. Then he's put into a psychological mindfuck of a fight so that he can get Race's blood for the cure. And when that cure is finally made, Mr. Freeze turns on him due to Joker kidnapping his wife, and you're put into another great boss fight. All for it to be over and find out the cure was stolen. Then Batman has to fight his way through the steel mill again to get crushed by rubble and wake up in the middle of Protocol 10 where he's faced with a tough decision whether to save someone he cares about or save a city of criminals that don't deserve it, just because he knows it's the right thing to do. He then has to climb and fight his way to stop Hugo Strange, only to find out that Race has been running things all along and Hugo is just his puppet. And then Joker reveals he's been playing him this whole time and kills Talia. He then has to fight Clayface, and in the end, when he finally gets the cure, and even after all he's been through, he still would have stuck to his moral code and saved the Joker no matter all he's done. But even through all that, Spider-Man was put through the ringer even harder while also being a better hero. This game exhibits the perfect adaptation of Peter Parker right from the opening scene. He's faced with his dual identity crisis, being able to either pay his rent on time or go stop Kingpin. And right after stopping Kingpin, he's also faced with that dual identity crisis. That's by Otto, which conducts some subtle controversy, brings the demon mask to Peter and Aunt which is which is then introduced to heroic truck, block and save his belongings. And then figure out what's crashing in the track and bomb where he's going. Martin Lee then begin a little too happy and mess him in this whole time. Otto's playing culture and a hit with him putting Barry City, and he has to save Ant-Man by Otto to kill City and make it compare so he fights and beats him beaten down to he knows he has to do it, so he goes to part of his
I miss
that similar decision as Batman at the end of Arkham City, where he can save one person he cares about or let an entire city die. But only in Spider-Man's case, he makes the tough decision on his own, while Batman would have made a different choice had he not been forced to do the right thing by Alfred.
Red Dead was a big leap. Red Dead 2 was a big leap. Well, hold on. Red Dead Redemption 2. Not the remake. Not the remake. Where's the original? Dead. Graphics, yes. Well, I'm trying to find it without the remake, though. God of War 2 to 3 was huge. Okay, 2 to 3, yeah, but not 1 to 2. Redemption 2. Let's see what we do.
Stars most town of Blackwater, and they've retreated high into the mountains where an atrocious blizzard is covering their escape. We slip into the spurs of Arthur Morgan, an exceedingly cool and capable outlaw, and settle in for a roughly 60-hour story. It's a self-contained and linear introduction, but it's a clever one. It heightened the impact of having the full map open up to me a few hours later. Being set loose in the true open world after toughing it out in this intentionally oppressive environment really underscores the incredible feeling of freedom the full map offers.
Wait, am I tripping? This wasn't the original, right? Right? Hold on, am I tripping? Wait, was this the sequel? Dead Redemption. This year, we don't want this year. That was the sequel? And Dead Redemption Review. Xbox One. Red Dead Redemption came out 2010. About 10 years ago. Get the hell out of here. Okay, then yeah, that was a giant leap. But also, it came out in fucking 8 years. It came out 8 years ago.
Rockstar is once again staking its claim to the throne as king of the open world game. After making itself a household
Bro, Red Dead Redemption 2 came out 8 years after Red Dead Redemption 1. Bruh. If Spider-Man 2 had 8 years, I would, you know, by all means. Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 came out 8 years after the first one. That's fucking insane. Now, Red Dead Revolver. Yeah, bro. Of course that should be a giant leap. Like, come on now. 8 years? They better have a giant leap.
You know what? Playing this on a PS5 genuinely feels war. Who doesn't love ripping the ever-loving piss out of an old classic, which is us? The child's name is Red. Old Dad explains to us that our troubles are finally over because they've found a fuck ton of gold and we definitely won't get robbed inside the next 5 minutes. Red notices that his dad has a cool gun. We get given our own gun, which is nice. It's just what I've always wanted. Thanks for the gun, Dad. I'm off to use it on the family dog. So while Dad is no doubt being pegged by Mum inside the house, I'm down by the river shooting targets that have been conveniently set up so that I don't use the weapon on animals. Clearly nobody thought out an in-law explanation. Funny.
Alright. Yeah, I don't think Red Dead's a fair comparison. Uncharted, God of War, Prince of Persia. Alright. Gotta make a video now. Alright. Everyone, I think that's gonna be it. Everyone take care. Stay safe. Be amazing. I will catch you all mañana. Very interesting. Adios, muchachos. I'll check out Max Payne in Breath of the Wild. Will do. Adios.